use of your time. We value that. And so this is going to be an insight-based experience. We love to teach by immersion. And so get ready, put on your seatbelt and take mental notes, physical notes, and as we proceed to talk about asset optimization, tax minimization, how to empower your authentic wealth, you'll have the opportunity to download a workbook about midway through so that you'll be able to take meticulous notes. But what I would like to do here is introduce by framing what makes our approach different here, okay? Now, my educational platform, as a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, I've worked with thousands of Americans. And I've found that many successful people in America, when they come, they may be financially successful. But some of these people that accumulate a tremendous amount of financial wealth, frankly, are some of the most unhappy people I meet sometimes. And I'm going to share with you why and talk about the big picture, because it's more than just the money. And you'll see where I'm coming from as I proceed through here. A lot of these people, they thought that maybe accumulating enough money for their children, their family, that was the priority, but we sort of have to have balance in our life. So what I like to do is teach by metaphors, and so I'm going to use several metaphors as I go through. I want you to watch the screen carefully as I introduce the first metaphor concept and what I want you to experience today, okay? So when you are about to go on a trip somewhere for the very first time, what's the most important piece of information you need to know? Most people blurt out, where you're going or how to get there. Nope. When using a GPS, it uses triangulation. And it does that by honing in on 3 out of about 30 satellites that orbit this Earth for that very purpose. Once it has clarity on where you are at, within 2 square feet on this globe, then you program in where you're wanting to go, and it will show you all kinds of ways to get to your desired destination. The freeway, the scenic way, the byway, also where to refuel your car or yourself en route. So when people ask me, Doug, what is it that you like to do? I enthusiastically respond, I sort of like to be the OnStar button on people's dashboard of life. You see, I like to help people get extremely clear on where they are at in every area or dimension of their life, and then get clarity on where they're wanting to go. Then the path to get to their desired destination can be easily mapped out, sort of how to live the life that they want to lead. Now, a very good friend of mine, strategic coach Dan Sullivan, told me one day, Doug, all progress begins by telling the truth. And I would add, to yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to tell the truth to is yourself. As a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, I can usually look at somebody's tax return or 6 numbers on a financial statement, and within 2 minutes, I can tell where they are at financially, how much of a fortune they're missing out on, what they know and what they obviously don't know, how long their money's going to last. The fact of the matter is you don't know what you don't know because you can't be aware of something you're not aware of. So you can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at physically. We make choices in our life regarding exercise or lack of exercise, nutrition or lack of nutrition that puts us at a cellular level in our body not at ease, what we call dis-ease. That all too often results in what my good friend Tony Escobar calls death by lethal ingestion. He says maybe because of weapons of mass consumption. A lot of people are not at ease financially, and we would like to cure that uneasiness, that dis-ease for you today. But you can also tell where somebody's at by where they're at emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. But all progress begins by telling the truth. And once you have clarity on where you're at and where you wanted to go, then the path to get to your desired destination can be easily mapped out. So to help you understand where you are at, it's hard to quantify sometimes, And so you see in front of you a scorecard. And you'll receive a copy of this in your workbook here in a little bit. But you'll notice here there are 10 principles over there on the left, okay? The first 4 have directly to do with money or the financial dimension, liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax advantages. And you're going to learn today with these epiphanies, these ahas, that as you look at these statements between poor, fair, good, better, best, from left to right, if you have a lot of your retirement funds, for example, in IRAs or 401ks, deferring tax to some future perceived unknown advantage, you wouldn't believe how many people arrive at retirement and they're not in a lower tax bracket if they were savers. They're in as higher bracket as they've ever been in. And so it's only fair. A Roth would be better if you think taxes in the future will be higher. But we're going to show you something that's even better than a Roth, and I'll explain this to you because that would be a score of 9 or 10. So what you do is you look at the scorecard and you look down these principles. Now, the fifth principle, cash generator, abundance versus scarcity, 3 dimensions. You're going to understand this in just a few minutes. The responsibility and accountability, equal opportunity, and values and vision, because this is what sets our approach apart from all the other, advisors out there. So as you look down this, you look at the statement that most accurately describes where you are currently at. You look at the score at the top, and you would put that score over on the right in that box. And so you're going to end up with 10 numbers over there on the right. That is where you're at. You'll add up those 10 numbers, and at the bottom right, you'll total that. This will give you a number between 1 and 100, which sort of is like a percentage of where you are currently at. Now, I don't care if your score today is 32 or 41 or 63. It's not where you begin with the counts, it's where you end up. I know the answer to this next question. Whatever your score is today in this abundant living scorecard, how many of you already know you want a higher score in your future? Okay? That's what we do. We help you raise this score to have an abundant life, to not outlive your money, but it's more than that. And so as we proceed, one of the gifts that we want all of you to claim today is a copy of our most recent best-selling book, The Laser Fund, which is actually 2 books in one. This side is about 200 pages. This is for the left brain learners that like the charts and graphs and percentages and explanations. But for those of you who make your decisions or you learn more with your right brain, you love the stories and examples, you can just cut to the chase and flip over to this one. And this has 62 like chicken soup for the financial soul stories of how you can optimize assets and minimize taxes using our favorite vehicle that we're going to teach you about today. And we teach advanced continuing education, CPAs and tax attorneys. And you can't believe they sit here with their mouths open. And so you're going to learn some things that many CPAs and tax attorneys are shocked because they don't even need to learn it to get their LLM degree, a master's in taxation. So you can get your free copy of this book from your assigned laser fund specialist later. We'll show you how to do that. And on the right brain side, the orange covered side on page 13 is a copy of the scorecard I just showed you. Okay? Now, what we're going to do today is show you how to alleviate or even eliminate the dangers that cause most retirees in America to outlive their money, okay? The number one danger is rising taxes. And they're not going down because of irresponsible government spending, the printing of money, and so forth. Now, this is not a political agenda. This is not a religious agenda. This is not a health agenda. But I always ask my audiences, would you prefer that I be honest or gentle? Now, most say honest, okay? Now, you may not agree with my take, but most people can see the writing on the wall where taxes will likely be going up because COVID-19, we spent twice as much as we brought in, and then we continued to pass and more spending. So taxes are going to be going up, and we hear that from the politicians. Number 2, we're going to keep seeing inflation, okay? I don't like inflation any more than anybody, but you're going to learn today to have it work for you instead of against you. And also number 3, we're going to continue to see continued market volatility. Wall Street was not designed to create predictable income streams. And you're going to see how you can actually participate when the market does well without having your money actually in the market, so that when the market crashes, which it does every 3 to 7 years, you will not lose. Sound too good to be true? No, you're going to learn about this. So the 3 greatest opportunities I want you to look for today is how you can switch maybe 40%, 50, 60%. Some people want 100%, but of your income at retirement to be tax-free. The IRS will know you're receiving it, but they know it's tax-free. It doesn't show up on the front page of your 1040 tax return. You'll learn how to do this. Tax-free means you're immune from taxes going up. You'll learn how to link your returns so that when inflation starts hitting double digits, like it did during COVID-19, many of our clients, because of that, were able to lock in gains that exceeded or outpaced inflation. So pay very close attention to how to do that. The word is linking. And number 3 is by using indexing. Now, I'm not talking about index mutual funds. I'm talking about indexing, which is a strategy that allows you to participate when the market goes up. But if the market crashes, you will not lose one dime due to that market downturn. You may not make anything, but you don't lose. And as Will Rogers once said, people get more concerned about the return of their money instead of the return on their money when things get bad. Now, my favorite financial vehicle, which I call the laser fund. What's a laser fund? You'll learn this today. A laser fund is a properly structured, max-funded, indexed universal life insurance contract that's structured primarily for living benefits, not the death benefit. So you're going to learn about this today because it is incredible. It's my favorite instrument. Why? Because it's called laser, which stands for liquid asset safely earning returns. The key elements of a prudent investment are, number 1, liquidity. A lot of people get these reversed and they go, oh, I want the rate of return, and they give up the ability to access their money when they need it. That's called liquidity. Number 2 is safety, not only of the institution, but safety of principal. Whatever I set aside, I don't want to lose due to a market downturn, but anytime I make money, I would like the money I made last year to be locked in so that in future years, I will not lose money I made in previous years. Most advisors don't know how to do that. Listen very close to how a laser fund does this, and also to earn a predictable rate of return. You're going to see a few examples today of, when there's anxiety, there's opportunity. So in March of 2020, COVID-19, the market dropped 30%. And so this is where my sons, who are going to be instructors also for you today, they contacted 800 of their clients March of 2020 and said, hey, change the strategy on your laser fund. And they were able to link to a 1-year point-to-point with no cap. Now, don't worry about it remembering that. What did it do? That meant that they subtract 5%, but there's no cap. So the chance that the market was going to go up substantially was highly likely. It went up 66.33%, minus 5%. Our clients got credited 61.33%. We had a client in California that had $852,000 in his laser fund. That was just the portion that was that. He made $535,000 in 12 months, and his account value was $1,387,000. If the next year the market would have crashed 40%, he would not have lost one dime of the $500,000 he made the year before. That's called lock-in and reset. On the average, you want to earn a rate of return by having annual reviews and tweaking that will be within 1% of the net rate of return at the end of the day. So that if you earn 8, you'll net 7. If you earn 11, you'll net 10. So pay very close attention to this. So let's go back to this laser test. I've been honored to have authored 12 books. And my very first one, Missed Fortune and Misfortune 101, I had this risk return paradigm in the book. And I listed 16 general categories of investments, shown there on the left, from highest risk to lowest risk. And so when you apply the liquidity test to those, this many fail the liquidity test. You can't access your money quick enough, or if you do, it's going to trigger tax or a 10% penalty or something like that. When you apply the safety test, okay, safety of principal and institution, this many more fail the safety test. When you apply the rate of return test, you've got to earn a rate of return greater than the inflation rate, for example. This many more fail the rate of return test. So we're down to number 10, number 12, number 15, okay? Maybe a very small handful of mutual funds. Number 15 maybe a small handful of annuities, which is a savings account with an insurance company. But number 12 is one of the most misunderstood, and this is why we teach advanced continuing education to CPAs and tax attorneys about number 12. What is it? Max funded. You max fund an insurance contract, take the least amount of insurance, as you're going to learn, and it turns into a tax-free cash cow for living benefits to create tax-free income. So I often will use the metaphor, if you were a farmer and you have the choice of buying your seed in the springtime, and you don't have to pay tax when you buy the seed. And so you plant, you irrigate, you work hard, and in the fall, you're going to harvest your crops. And now you agree to pay tax on what you sell your harvest for, okay? That's a traditional IRA or 401k. You get a tax break on the seed money, but later on, you agree to pay tax. And that sounded good when people said, oh, you'll likely be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. Well, that has not been true or axiomatic for years. Many times people are going down the highway with one foot on the gas pedal and the other foot on the brake pedal, and they don't even know they're doing it, meaning they put money in tax-deferred accounts, and then they actually proceed to kill their tax deductions. You know, we pay off our house, we lose that deduction. If you're a business owner and you retire and sell your business, you don't have those deductions. The kids are gone, or if they move back in as adults, you can't deduct them anymore. Congress keeps raising taxes. And so most Americans realize if you accumulate any type of a respectable retirement nest egg, you'll likely be in a higher tax bracket, not a lower one. And so I would rather just pay the tax on the seed money and enjoy the harvest without tax. Now, you may say, oh, that's a Roth. Well, yes, a Roth is a step in the right direction, but you know I've never owned an IRA or 401k, but I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k because a laser fund has the two benefits of a Roth and 4 additional benefits that Roths don't have. So that's why would I mess around with a Roth? And so when we look back at this chart, there is only one, number 12, max funded insurance, that actually has a tax-favored harvest on the back end and allows you to participate when the market does well. So this laser test is the pillars on the front of the book, okay? Liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits. After doing this for 5 decades, you can take any investment in America and you can score it on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, on your scorecard. And based on liquidity, a properly structured laser fund will score at least 8 out of 10. It's very liquid. You can access money if you need to with electronic funds transfer or phone call, okay? Safety, it's way up there. That's 9 out of 10 at least, okay? Rate of return, depending upon whether you're using it for short-term goals or long-term goals, it's 8 out of 10. But as far as tax advantages, nothing else does what it does. It's the only instrument in the Internal Revenue Code, and you'll learn 3 sections of the code today that have been around for over a century, that allows your money to accumulate tax-free. You can access it tax-free, and when you ultimately pass away, it blossoms. It increases in value and transfers income tax-free. A laser fund is the only thing that does that, and I've challenged CPAs and tax attorneys, show me anything else that does it, and they've never been able to. When you add up those 4 scores, a laser fund scores 35 out of 40. I know of nowhere to put money that scores a perfect 40. Do you know most Americans have their money in IRAs or 401ks in the market or annuities, and that only scores about 18 to 22 out of 40, only about 50% of where you could be. So I'm going to shift gears, and I'm going to just show you what sets us apart from all other firms as far as what we approach on the rest of those items on the scorecard, okay? So during the 5 decades that I've been a financial strategist, I've seen countless clients, as I mentioned. They work really hard to manage, grow their wealth, enjoy abundance, foster a similar dream of prosperity for their posterity. And guess what happens? You wouldn't believe how many times that dream turns into a nightmare. And they will tell me, I'll say, how did you build this empire, this business? How did you accumulate this kind of a nest egg? You're really a saver. You must be disciplined. And they would usually say something like, yeah, Doug, I was raised after the Great Depression, and I learned how to work. I have worked so hard, my kids will never have to work as hard as I did. And then they come back 20 or 30 years later in their golden years, and they're often distraught. And I go, "What's up?" And they go, "Doug, I don't know what's wrong with our kids and now our grandkids. They don't even know how to work." And I go, maybe you stole that from them. Maybe in your effort to not have them go through what you did. You always said what made a man out of you is how you had to overcome struggles and setbacks. And sometimes we think we're doing our children and grandchildren a favor by taking care of everything. And then we wonder, why are they hovering around? "Mom, Dad, will you pay for it? Can I have? When do I get my share?" And it's called entitlement, okay? And so they would say, "Yeah, how do I abolish this entitlement mindset with my children?" So I wrote a book called Entitlement Abolition. It's only 200 pages. I'm going to gift you a copy if you would like here during the first little session or break when we launch into the financial dimension. And you're going to get some answers here. So I'm going to spend a few minutes and I'm going to reveal 3 secrets where you can learn to create and leave behind more than just money, a legacy. So there are 3 dimensions of what I call true or authentic wealth. Now, when I say the word assets, what kinds of things do most people think of first when we say the word assets? Most people say, "Oh, your real estate, your house, your cash, your stocks, your bonds, and so forth." Now, when you think about it, those are just material possessions. Those are just things, right? Whenever I ask people what are the most important assets that you value, that you cherish, that you possess on this earth, they know I'm not talking about money. They usually say family, my partner, my health, my faith, my beliefs. Yeah, these kinds of assets involve people. We call these human assets. They are our core assets. So I put these under the foundational assets for living an abundant life. They would also include such things as your heritage, your talents, unique abilities, charitable foundations, and so forth. Now, there's a third dimension of authentic wealth that involves the wisdom that we gain throughout our life. That's our intellectual assets. Wisdom is a product of knowledge times what? Experiences, okay? Just the good ones? How many of you have learned more from your bad ones like I have? Okay. It would also include your formal education, reputation, systems, methods, traditions, alliances, ideas, and skills. But here's the deal. Whenever I ask anybody, if you had to let go of one of these 3 categories of assets, financial, foundational, or intellectual, you had to let go of one, bankrupt it, start all over, accumulating that category, but you could keep the other 2. Not only could you keep the other 2, but you could transfer them into future generations. But you had to bankrupt or let go of one of those 3 categories and start all over. Which one would you let go of? Now, abundant-minded people immediately, without hesitation, say, the money. Yeah, why? Why would you let go of the money? Because you can rebuild that one using the other 2. Most religions believe we come to this earth possessing the intellectual and foundational. If you believe in a life after this one like I do, those are the ones you return to your maker and report on. Have you ever figured out how to take the money with you when you die? Yeah, there's no luggage racks on hearses, as the song says. So at 3-dimensional wealth, we focus on all 3 dimensions. This is like a 3-legged stool, okay? So we believe it's more important that values are understood before the assets are valued. So let me make sure I understand this 3-legged stool, these 3 dimensions. Some people, they maybe spend their health accumulating their wealth. Later in life, they're spending all their wealth trying to regain that health. Wow. Or maybe they accumulate their financial wealth at the expense of their relationships with their spouse, their grandkids, or their kids, or their God, whatever your belief is of a higher power. And at the end of the day, at age 67, they've got one foot in the grave because they traded health. And they're bankrupt, and they go, "Golly, Doug, what was all this for? I'm not going to take it with me. I don't. My spouse left me years ago. My kids don't come around unless they want a handout, and so they get very frustrated. I want to prevent that, so I like to take the wobble out of people's life so that you're balancing all 3 legs of that stool. Does that make sense? Now, I'm going to use one last metaphor, which is a golf metaphor, and if you're not a golfer like I'm not, you'll still get it. But let's say you were going to be playing in a golf tournament, and you had the choice of using a professional golfer like Phil Mickelson's swing, or you could use his clubs. What would you choose? I'd rather have his swing, not his clubs. Well, I've noticed that most financial advisors seem to focus on the clubs or the commodity. Buy this mutual fund, buy this stock or bond or gold or silver. Folks, it's not in the commodity, it's in the strategy. Indexing is a strategy. An index fund is a commodity. You're going to understand the difference today. Many estate planning attorneys seem to focus on dividing up the golf clubs and the trophies among your kids and grandkids when you die. I'd rather leave behind the swing or how to fish to my kids and grandkids than just dumping a bunch of fish in their lap. I want them to be self-reliant, to never be unemployed. But unemployment is a mental condition, not a physical condition. Security is in the individual, not in somebody giving you a job to do. Okay? So to do this, we focus on all three dimensions, which involves learning true principles. Now, a truth is just a belief until you experience it. When you experience a truth, it becomes a truth to you. Now, all of those 10 principles on that scorecard, I have experienced and I continue to do so. Now, when you learn a true principle, you have a choice. You can just put it on the back burner or you can implement it. If you choose to implement it in your life, then listen close to strategies and concepts that have been proven so that you don't have to take the long learning curve that I took. You can apply it in a fast power curve. My goal today is for you not to take the years learning like I did. And so I have invested over $3 million in my life, sharpening my saw, Stephen Covey would say. I take a lot of ideas and marry them together, but metaphorically speaking, I'll show you when to use a sand wedge or a 7-iron or a driver. I'm not going to get in the specific brand of clubs. My 2 sons will show you that, okay? So let me go back to this framing. You see a big A on your screen. Many times when I'm flying, I sometimes get upgraded to first class because I fly so much. And, people snooze on a flight until you approach your destination about 15 minutes out, and they tell you to put your seat in the most upright, uncomfortable position. And usually we wake up and I start a little conversation, and people will invariably say, "What do you do?" Well, I usually pull out a Delta Airlines napkin, let's say, and I draw a great big A, and that stands for abundance, and I make sure they understand what I'm talking about because I tell them I optimize assets. But let me just take a moment and talk about what true or authentic wealth is. And then I ask them, so when we say the word assets, what kinds of things do you think of first? And sure enough, predictably, they'll tell me their house, their stocks and bonds and real estate. And I say, yep. They don't know why I'm putting it up here in this northeastern portion, but those are the financial, but those are just things. Then I change my tone and I go, so what are the most important assets that you value, that you cherish, that you possess on this earth? Now they know I'm not talking about money, and so they tell me family, health, values, spirituality, heritage, and what have you, and those are the foundational. If they didn't mention education, then I'll say there's a third category. The third leg of this stool is intellectual. Wisdom is a product of knowledge times experiences, but it includes your reputation, systems, methods, traditions, alliances, ideas, and skills. Again, these are the 3 legs, and I say what I do is I help people take the wobble out of their life because so many people focus sometimes on just the money at the expense of health or the expense of relationships or what have you. And so I don't want that to happen. Balance is very important. Now, in the book I'm going to gift you here, it's called Entitlement Abolition. And in there, I tell how there's another category of assets that transcends these other 3. And frankly, most Americans flat out give up choice and control. This is what we must contribute back to society. Now, most governmental systems in the world have a method whereby we must give back to society. And these are our civic or social assets. Now, we can give back in the foundational, give our time to charitable causes. We can give our wisdom, our time, and our talents, which actually has more impact than writing out bigger and bigger checks. I have many volunteers. I sit on a board of teenage suicide prevention. And also I have mentored thousands of youth at youth prisons. The volunteers that serve with me, I mean, they could write out a check for $100,000 and donate it, and yet the counselors go, we need your time and your talents more than your money. because what you do here, 2 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours on Sundays, has more impact than just writing out bigger and bigger checks. So let me come back to the greatest method that most governments use to cover civic and social assets is taxes, right? Most people view taxes as a liability, but taxes are actually an asset. When I go to California or Florida, I drive on Interstate 10 or the 405 or whatever, and I help pay for those freeways. We may not agree with how the government is the steward over, our tax dollars. Let's not go there right now. But taxes are actually an asset. Here's something that most CPAs and tax attorneys seem to forget within 2 years of starting their practice. In the Internal Revenue Code, if we take ownership, instead of relying on the government to do everything for us, we can actually redirect otherwise payable tax to causes that we support. But a lot of people forget this. So let me give you a few examples. Now, let's make sure you understand what I mean by ownership. When you own things, they see the secret to American wealth is in ownership, deeds, titles, articles of incorporation. I lived in Korea for a few years, and I've been back 5 times. South Korea, North Korea. From outer space, North Korea is dark, except one light emitting from the presidential compound. South Korea is lit up like Las Vegas. It's night and day difference. North Korea, their citizens do not own. This is why, frankly, they have to threaten the world, blackmail the world, that we're going to fire off nuclear weapons because they're starving to death, okay? They don't own anything over there, and if you don't own things, you don't take care of it. When was the last time you washed a rental car or changed the oil on a rental car? People don't wash rental cars, they wash their own car. So when you take ownership for your own retirement, instead of relying on the government to take care of you, because if you don't, they'll try to do it, and they're not very good at it. Okay, during the Industrial Revolution, they started retiring worn out equipment. Now, the word retire means put out of use. I don't want to be put out of use. The secret for longevity is making yourself necessary, redefining yourself. They started to retire worn out people, and guess what? The life expectancy was only 7 years. And so Social Security was introduced because they thought, well, we only have to pay out benefits for an average of 7 years. Well, now baby boomers are living way longer, running up healthcare costs, and you probably can see the writing on the wall. It's a train wreck waiting to happen. And so rather than relying on the government in the Internal Revenue Code, if you put money into tax advantage instruments to take pressure off of the government, there's good ways, IRAs or 401ks, better ways, Roths, but the best way we're going to teach you about today, and it's totally tax-free during the accumulation, access, and transfer phases. And people say, well, why? Because you're taking total ownership, whether you live a long time, whether you die sooner, whether you leave behind a widow or orphans, your dependents will continue to be independent from government better when you take ownership. So you're going to learn why it's tax-free and why it's a sacred, tax-free cash cow in the Internal Revenue Code. So also in the book, you're going to read about 2 families. Now, I don't endorse these families by any means. It's the Vanderbilt family versus the Rothschilds, but they illustrate my point. Cornelius Vanderbilt was like the Elon Musk or Bill Gates of his time. He was the richest man on earth when he died in 1877. He built a fortune worth $105 million, steamship railroads, transportation industry. But do you know he wasn't very philanthropic? He only left behind less than 1% of his wealth to charity, Central University, which became Vanderbilt University. It took 96 years until 1972 before 120 of his descendants gathered together at Vanderbilt University for their first family reunion. There wasn't a millionaire left in the bunch. It was all gone. The 4th generation was like, it's all gone? Wait, we're not one of them? We have to work? Oh, it was unbelievable. So we have this saying, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. If all you do is build up wealth and then you think you're doing your children and your family a favor and your legacy is dumping money in their lap, be careful because it may do more damage than good unless you do it the right way, okay? This is not unique to America. In Asia, it's called rice paddy to rice paddy in 3 generations. In Europe, it's clogs to clogs in 3 generations if you just dump it in their laps, okay? In fact, William K. Vanderbilt, a grandson, said, it left me with nothing to hope for, nothing definite to seek or strive for. Inherited wealth has been a real handicap to happiness. Whoa. Well, Mayor Amschel Rothschild, he built a banking dynasty in Europe. He died in 1812. And the Rothschilds had several children, and among them 5 sons, and they assigned each one of these sons to European capitals. They would communicate back and forth with homing pigeons, when to buy and when to sell. The point is this: when Mayer passed away, he did not leave behind an inheritance or an entitlement program or whatever. He left behind a system. Now, I call it a family bank. It's a conceptual bank, not a chartered bank like down the street, okay? And there were 3 basic rules, okay? They loaned their heirs money or entered into joint ventures with them, and the loans had to be paid back. If you needed help with a college education, you needed to get good grades, you could apply. If you got approved, you could borrow from the family bank, get your education, but when you graduated, you paid that loan back with a nominal interest rate so your children and grandchildren would have the same wherewithal. Does that make sense? And so this really helped us. My parents couldn't afford to pay my college or my wife's. We worked our way through school. I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken 30 hours a week. My wife worked at a bookstore. We got different scholarships. We actually had better study habits than many of our friends whose parents were just shelling it out. And so when we raised our 6 children, we gave them equal opportunities. We might match a scholarship or loan them money or what have you. And then we allowed them to pay it back. And if they couldn't pay it back with money, they could mow lawns, shampoo carpets, paint, or whatever. I'll give you a little bit more about this in just a moment. The second rule in Rothschild Family Bank is the knowledge and experiences they learned, the good and the bad, had to be shared with other family members horizontally, not just vertically. This wasn't a parents to kids to grandkids secret. Aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. Sharing is having more, okay? And so if they didn't share so that future generations could learn, they were out of the loop, okay? The third is the family gathered at least once a year to reaffirm its virtues and intentions, or they couldn't participate in the perpetual family fund or the family bank. The point is this: guess what happened to the Rothschilds' wealth? It grew to billions and trillions, okay? Versus the Vanderbilt fortune, which dissipated and disappeared. The Rothschilds sort of empowered their posterity. So the 3 false belief patterns, the first one is equal distribution is the fairest way to treat those you care about. Now, how many of you out there have a trust? Okay. Now, I can assure you, if you have a trust, a living trust, that your kids will likely never read that document, except one page that says how much they get, okay? But most trusts are equal distribution trusts, and I'm going to implore you to maybe rethink your thinking, meaning you sit down with an attorney, and after a little bit of small talk where you nod up and down like you understand all this vernacular, the attorney will usually, when they find out your net worth, they'll say, how many children have you got? Because what are they going to start doing? Dividing it up. That's the number one rule if you want to destroy, divide, and conquer. But they ask for your children, and then they set up an equal distribution trust. You want to be fair, don't you? And if they can get you nodding up and down, they go, hot diggity dog, I've got another one. And, you know, it's not this simple, but they'll charge you $3,000 to $12,000 and take your children's names and your assets, put it into the boilerplate document, push print. And sure enough, it goes on until both you and your spouse have passed. And then guess what? Chunk, 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 chunk gets divided up and dumped in your kid's lap, many times requiring to kill the goose that's laying the golden eggs. Oh, we have to be fair. So we're going to have to sell the assets, the apartments, the business, because we got to be fair and equal. Maybe there's a better way. So regardless of its complexity, unfortunately, traditional financial planning is a process of 4 Ds. It's divided up. Many times they defer thinking they're saving. Tax will dispel that myth today. And then it gets distributed many times to ill-prepared heirs, and then it dissipates. This wealth is transferred without a system that fosters responsibility and accountability. Abraham Lincoln said, the worst thing you can do for those you love is the things they can do for themselves. Robert Frost said, every affluent father wishes he knew how to give his sons the hardships that made them rich. But we don't want to see our kids suffer, and many times we think we're helping them, and then we're bailing them out, we're rescuing them, and then we wonder why they're weak. Just like we see them struggling like a butterfly trying to emerge in the measure of its full creation, and it struggles. If you help it out, it'll die. We teach this to our grandchildren, and we tell them, when you're struggling, we'll be there to give you a hand up, but never a handout. And we want you to learn and to overcome, because we're Christian, and so we tell our children and grandchildren, a higher power will make up the difference. If you do all your part, you respond with all your ability, which means responsibility, okay? And so we look at this equal opportunity versus equal distribution. Now look at this statement at the bottom. There's nothing more unequal than the equal distribution to unequals. And people go, what are you talking about? Let me explain. I do not believe that our Creator gives equal distribution of blessings, let's say, to all of us of health, okay? To all of us, regardless of how some of us, including me, may choose to abuse our bodies, okay? Our Creator doesn't say, oh, you know what, you people over here, because I'm fair, you've been abusing your bodies, you've been taking in these harmful substances, you never exercise, but I'm going to be fair and give you the same health and vitality as these over here that are striving to eat right and to exercise and so forth. And, sometimes we think fairness means the healthy people absolutely must pay for the unhealthy people. Now, we should have access to health care. I don't want to go there. But sometimes we need to realize that our Creator gives us equal opportunities, okay? Not equal distribution. Does that make sense? So many times we want to rethink our thinking, and once you read my book, you may want to change your rules of governance to leave behind your assets with equal opportunities, not just equal distribution. So the first secret is to live, to identify your core values, your vision, and your principles. So I would recommend you do that while you're alive. You live by these principles of equal opportunities, not equal distribution, and you'll learn more. This is my book, Entitlement Abolition. I'll gift you here. And at the midpoint, you'll be able to get a free copy of this digitally. And then in section 1, you'll see this concept covered, okay? What we do in our family, we have mottos, slogans, laws, manifestos, creeds, even a value and vision clarity statement. I can assure you, if I gave you one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and you pushed record on your smartphone and you simply read the question and off the cuff answered, your children and grandchildren into perpetuity would watch and rewatch, listen and re-listen, read and reread that. Because I can capture what's in here and what's in here. They won't read your trust, okay? So you don't have to have all of these, but you'll see examples in my book, okay? This is on pages 69 to 75 of the book. So the second false belief pattern is that your leadership role ends when your children are out of the nest. Sometimes people say, well, whatever my kids and grandkids do with what I leave them is their problem. No, you can set them up for success or failure on how the system you leave behind, okay? It's like throwing a rock in a pond. What you do will ripple for generations. So what we recommend is 4 Ps instead of 4 Ds. We want to preserve, protect, perpetuate, prosper, have a system where this wealth, which includes more than money, is transferred with a system of responsibility and accountability. So that in this center part, which is the family bank, so to speak, you want to leave behind like a family bank or a perpetual cash fund. Now notice cash is spelled with a K-A-S-H. I'll show you what that means in just a moment. It's an acronym. But you're going to learn today in the financial dimension how you can make deposits and withdrawals and become your own banker and never outlive your money. And anytime anybody passes away, in our family bank, we always take the tax-free transfer, 20% of it at least, and put it in a new laser fund on the next oldest healthy family member so that we'll never run out of money. In fact, we'll have way more than we need instead of like the Vanderbilts that ran out of money, okay? But also, you'll read the book and find out how do you capture, your genealogy, your heritage, and your beliefs and transfer those into future generations. If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything, and so you want to leave behind what you knew to be true. But also the intellectual, the good and bad experiences so that your posterity doesn't have to make the same mistakes. So what does CASH stand for? Knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. This is the swing more than the clubs. C.A.S.H. is the clubs, okay? K.A.S.H. If I have to choose between one or the other, I'd rather leave behind this one than the money. Does that make sense? So we're trying to be healthy, wealthy, and wise in all three dimensions, be balanced, so that we can learn how to live, love, learn, give, earn. So you'll read in the book, we take family vacations with a purpose. One of my favorite with my wife is our annual grandparents camp. We call it Grandpa's Camp. She lets me use that term. And so we have our grandchildren for a week every year. The teenagers come for 4 days, and we talk teenage talk. And we have 22 tools you'll see in the book that we teach them that the colleges and universities are not effectively teaching today. You're going to be blown away when you see these. And we actually have thinking tools for them. We also, we're Christians, so we have things like put on the whole armor of God or America, the land of liberty. Our older ones, they go on high adventure. The younger ones, we teach them at their level, but it is the most incredible experience. It's the highlight of our summer, not only for grandma and grandpa, but the grandkids tell us too. So the second secret is to lead from the front. Lead your legacy using powerful principles, tried and proven concepts. Use these leadership tools that you'll see in the book I'm going to gift you, okay? I would recommend you consider conducting family vacations and retreats with a specific purpose. If you want to read about how to hold your own grandpa's camp, you'll be able to see this in chapters 7 and 8 of the book I'll gift you, okay? Here is one game-changing concept that we learned that we implement almost every single family retreat, okay? I've had many mentors in my life, and one of them is Marshall Thurber, who was mentored. He's like a genius. His IQ's off the roof. He passed the California State Bar exam back in the 1970s with the highest score ever up until that point. He never took 1 hour of law school nor read one law book. He had a mentor. He had two favorite mentors, Buckminster Fuller, who's one of the most abundant living scientists on the planet, but Dr. Edwards Deming. If you don't know who Dr. Deming is, he's the total quality management engineer that transformed Japan to the quality they put out today with electronics and automobiles. Compared to when I was a kid, anything made in Japan was junk or cheap. Now, that dates me. I'm an old geezer, okay? I'm turning 72 here in a little bit, and my first watch was a sundial. I have an Apple Watch today, but my first pet was a dinosaur. So I remember back then. And so Dr. Deming taught Marshall Thurber several concepts. I'm going to give you a glimpse of 2 or 3 of these. The first one has been a game changer for us. Deming went up to a whiteboard and said, Mr. Thurber, unfortunately, a lot of people today choose to deal below the line. And he drew this line, and he said of 1 of 3 zones. The lowest is blaming. Blaming why they can or cannot or did not do something. Justifying why they did or did not or can or cannot do something. Or shame. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough money. I was never taught that. Deming said it doesn't matter which of those 3 zones you choose to operate in. It's an absolute waste of what? Time, energy, money, resources. He said you only progress when you deal above the line. So the first word I've already mentioned, and no matter what curveball life throws at you, you want to respond with all your ability. We teach our kids and grandkids, you do everything you can, and then a higher power will make up the difference. But if all you do is sit on the bottom of the ocean like a clam in a victim role, waiting for plankton to float to you, poor little me, no. We don't have a clam on top of the flagpole. We have we have an eagle. Okay, we want to respond with our ability. And then accountability is to other people. This is a game changer. So Dr. Deming told Marshall Thurber, who is a Fortune 500 company consultant, go out and gamify this. Go to your next Fortune 500 company and explain this. Hang up posters, put it on every floor. And for 90 days, anybody that you take off all the stripes, there's no superiors and subordinates when you play this game. Everybody brings $1 bills in their purse or their money clip for 90 days. And anytime anybody in the company deals below the line, you don't accuse, you just say, was that $2? If they agree they were dealing below the line, they voluntarily contributed $2 to jars that were strategically placed throughout the company. They were going to collect the money and donate it to a charity. In 90 days, they collected over $250,000. Great windfall for the charity. That was great. Guess what happened to the productivity of the company? It went through the roof. And so they decided to play the game the rest of the year. the best year they ever had. Everybody got a huge bonus and everybody got a huge raise because everybody started to deal above the line. So this is a game changer. You'll read in the book. When we go on a family vacation, if my daughter, we're getting ready to scuba dive, where's your snorkel, mask, and fins? If she were to say, oh, I would have remembered, but Aaron was bugging me, blame, $2. If she said, well, the strap broke on my fins yesterday when we were snorkeling, it wouldn't have done any good. That's justification, $2. If she said, well, Dad, you have to remind me, you know me, I'm always forgetting, shame, shame, shame. They have learned to say and be responsible. My bad, everybody. I'm going to pay the driver and go back and get my snorkel, mask, and fins. Here's some guava nectar on me tonight. Banana splits are on me. Would you please forgive me? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we dealt above the line more? These are the types of concepts. That's just a taste of 22 concepts you'll see in the book that we can teach, okay? So these are covered on page 64 of the book if you're interested. Now, I have a YouTube channel. If you're going, wow, I would like Doug to explain that to our family or our employees, well, you can go to my YouTube channel, Three Dimensional Wealth. We have currently about 141,000 subscribers. I have 1,500 videos there. There's several where I explain that $2 rule, okay, being responsible and accountable. It's free when you subscribe. What's the purpose, folks? Clarity. When people say, Doug, what are you selling? Well, I say clarity, balance, focus, and confidence. Why? When you have clarity, you have energy. We want you to feel energized at the end today, not sapped. Yeah, you're going to feel like, wow, I'm drinking out of a fire hose, but I want you to be energized because you have more clarity than when we started. When you have balance, we take the wobble out because as you go down the highway in balance, that increases the velocity in which you'll achieve your destination, your goals. With those two, you'll have focus on what matters most. Focus increases the accuracy that you'll achieve your goals. And with those three, you'll have much greater confidence. Now, confidence attracts opportunities. You actually recognize opportunities you never saw before. I want you to be seeing opportunities today that you never even saw before, okay? And so this is all covered, again, in the Entitlement Abolition book. The first section, the first 4 chapters talk about, how we in our businesses and our families, sometimes we get caught in this entitlement trap. And here's all this abundance, and we can't seem to reach it. The last 8 chapters, how to set up your own legacy bank, a United We Stand, family retreats, grandpa's camp, managing C.A.S.H, and then the C.A.S.H. You'll see how we can break free from this trap, and then everybody's participating, and abundance breeds abundance. Does that make sense? So we actually have recorded a master class, and this master class, when people came live, was $2,000, and it retails for $997. Many times for these Retire by Design events, you can access this for $197. Do you know what I'm going to do? When you fill out the survey here in a few minutes, I'll gift you that free, okay? Now, I'm going to connect the dots, and while I do this, if you want to complete this survey so that you can be able to have your questions answered, pick the brains of some of the top financial strategists in America that we've handpicked that have proven, and I'll introduce those to you at the end of the event. But scan that QR code and you can begin to fill the survey out right now. And then I will be assigning you to the appropriate one because there's 6 numbers on there that I can tell what you know and what you don't know and what you ought to know. And so you can begin by scanning that and filling out the survey now. You can wait if you want, but let me continue and show you, connect the dots here. The third false belief pattern is that by leaving behind a monetary, money, to your children, that somehow you've blessed your posterity with a legacy. Hopefully you're thinking differently. So I've been talking about the legacy dimensions. I'm going to shift now to the financial for the rest of today. And the K-A-S-H, we believe, is more important than even the C-A-S-H. That's why I devoted some time to talk about it. You'll see in the book that so many times we go out and we gain skills, we learn, we have an increase in our own knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits, and money, and we experience wealth and abundance. But if we go, My kids will never have to work as hard as I did. Be careful. Entitlement may creep in. And so the book will show you how you can sort of undo that, abolish that. Otherwise, it may exhaust your family resources. You have a loss of generational momentum, and each new generation is starting over again. I don't want that to happen for you. Learn the legacy cycle where it starts out the same, but you have a system that fosters responsibility and accountability down there at the about the 7 o'clock. When you get up there to number 5, you can set up your own family bank however you want with equal opportunities. And then you allow access to those in your family that deal above the line. And when they do that, you are offering equal opportunities, but not necessarily equal distribution. This is an increase in momentum. This is the Rothschild approach versus the Vanderbilt approach, okay? So the third secret is to leave what? K-A.S.H. So in the book, you'll see in chapter 9, ideas of how you can capture the knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. What we want for you today is, as you fill out this scorecard, let us help you raise your score. I would love, we had a couple down in Morgan Hill. I think they broke a record when they came to this event. They actually raised their score from like 32 to over 93 in like 9 months. Now, I don't care if it takes you 2 years or 5 years, but when you raise your score to over 90, watch what happens to your peace of mind, okay? Now, we're going to teach you systems today. System is an acronym that stands for Save Yourself Time, Energy, and Money. Dr. Deming taught us that 85% of any successful result you want in life is determined in the first 15% of the process. Do you know it took me 3 years to get that? I don't want it to take you 3 years. So for years, I branducated and trademarked a unique process to help you transform your life in all 3 dimensions. I call it the true wealth. Now you know what that means, transformer. So it's an 8-step process that you see here. And the white steps, 1, 3, 5, and 7, are sort of backstage where we can give you homework. We can refer you to YouTube videos, or you can listen and learn, watch and learn, read and learn. But the blue stages are where you are one-on-one in today's technology. You can do that via a Zoom call or what have you with some of the top. I've trained over 5,000 financial professionals. You will be assigned to one of the creme de la creme, one of the top 12 in America today. And I want the best of the best. They've proven to me. We oversee them so that you can get the best advice ever. And they're not going to charge you for your time. That's what I insist. And so I'll explain that a little bit later because they're willing to answer your questions and help you optimize your assets and see possibilities on specifics of what you're learning today. And so they'll meet with you for the first, what I call the true wealth discovery. They'll meet with you again. And then if you decide to implement, they'll meet with you on an annual basis to keep you on track. If you meet with them 2 or 3 times and you say thanks but no thanks, they're not going to bill or invoice you for their time. Okay? Is that fair enough? They usually get compensated indirectly, like I did for years, from just a minuscule portion of money that I saved my clients in tax. I mean, I had many clients that said, Doug, I'll give you half of everything you save in tax. I probably should have taken them up on it because I saved a lot of clients $250,000, $750,000, $1.2 million, as I'll show you here in a minute. No. So let me give you a glimpse of where we're headed here. In the book, chapter 14 of the left brain side, we introduce that a lot of retirees may draw income from up to maybe 4 resources. Not everybody draws from these 4, but we might have investment income. Maybe we own real estate and we have rental income, guaranteed income, or tax-free income. You know what I've discovered? The most important, the greatest impact is the green one. It's the most underutilized, okay? So let me go a little bit more specific here. The purple category would be your investment bucket, usually yet to be taxed, IRAs and 401ks invested in the market. You're going to learn the market was not created for predictable cash flow, okay? And yet so many retirees, that's where they have their money, and then this is what causes them to outlive their money when the market has downturns. We want to make you immune from that. That's the purple bucket. Frankly, a lot of Americans are way too top heavy in that one. They might have 70, 80, or 90% of their money in that bucket. Now, some people have real estate, which is good, but even real estate is subject to market downturns, not as much as maybe in a day where the market can drop, or a month the market drop 30%, but real estate can suffer. And so I would recommend maybe you only count on about 30 or 40% of your retirement income coming from real estate, because it can suffer. Some people like the guaranteed income, maybe a pension or an annuity or Social Security. Maybe between 0 and 80% of your income could come from that one, but the most underutilized is the green one. So we're going to focus on that here. This could be Roths. You already know I've never owned a Roth. Municipal bonds, they're not that high yielding, but frankly, there's only a lot of municipalities filing bankruptcy. My favorite is the MFTA, which stands for Max Funded Tax Advantage Insurance Contract. If it's structured correctly and funded properly, it knocks the socks off of most in that purple bucket, and you'll see why. And so it's my favorite instrument, and I would recommend that 40 to 60% of your income not even show up on the front page of your 1040 tax return. The IRS will know you're receiving it, but they know it's tax-free. So this requires what we call a strategic rollout, not a rollover. A rollover is like going from the frying pan to the fire. That would be doing a rollover from a 401k into an IRA, continuing to postpone if you don't need the money till you're age 72. Now it's even a little bit later than that. And then taking RMDs, required minimum distributions, which frankly I think is the worst advice for most Americans. You're deferring to some future perceived unknown advantage, and then take out the minimum and you're stretching it out. We have software that'll show you the darkness of the night. If you keep stringing it out to your and your spouse's life expectancy, and then you leave it to your children, which they have to pull it out and pay tax on it within 10 years, you would be flabbergasted the amount of tax you will pay by deferring. You're not saving tax. You're actually increasing the tax. A lot of people don't think that way. People say, well, why do they tell you to do that on CNBC? And I go, well, who's funding CNBC? It's government revenuers. Why would they want to kill a partnership with Uncle Sam where they get a third or more of everything you will ever make? So sometimes we have to rethink our thinking. At retirement planning is something different than maybe what you did for retirement. I would recommend no more than 30% of your income be in that purple bucket. Now, if you are retired and you have more than that, it's not too late. You'll learn. It's never too late. I would recommend no more than 30% of your income be dependent on real estate. And I like real estate. Between 0 to 80% may be guaranteed, but I would recommend 40 to 60%, and so many Americans, they don't have any yet. We want you to rethink your thinking. Now, we're going to show you, and in the book, several examples of strategic rollouts, and you can get a report of this absolutely free. I saved some school teachers $250,000 in tax, okay? They were thrilled. That allowed them to do things with their family, their grandchildren, instead of that $250,000 going down the drain in what I call unnecessary tax. I had a real estate landlord. We saved $750,000, okay? We quadrupled his income. We had husband and wife physicians, and they saved $1.2 million. And their advisor, because they had $4.6 million in IRAs and 401ks, and I said, you're going to end up paying $2.6 million in tax if you take RMDs. And their advisor goes, well, they can afford to pay $2.6 million in tax. And I said, well, let's ask them. I said, I can't save you $2.6 million, but I think I could save you $1.2. Would you like to do that? And they go, absolutely. $1.2 million of otherwise payable tax is generating $100,000 a year of tax-free cash flow without depleting that $1.2 million in their portfolio of laser funds. You can't believe what they can do for their posterity, for their charity, for their church, whatever, the Red Cross, the Boy Scouts, whatever, whoever they want, rather than, they're taking ownership. We had a couple in California. We took them from the highest tax bracket down to a 0% tax bracket in 5 years. They had $6 million in IRAs and 401ks. They bit the bullet. They paid $2 million in tax sooner than later. They were going to pay it anyway. They got it over and done with in 5 years. That $4 million in the next 7.5 years doubled in their laser fund to $8 million. They now have $8 million in their laser funds that basically is generating $600,000 to $800,000 a year. They don't even need that much. They only need $300,000 because it doesn't even show up on their tax return. They're in a 0% tax bracket. This is what we want to do for you, whatever your circumstances are. I had a couple one time come and they had 2.6 million in IRAs or 401ks. And I said, way to go, but I do see one big problem. What? Well, all of your income, you've got 160,000 as shown here on the screen, of portfolio income in your IRAs or 401ks. You got another 40,000 in Social Security or school teacher pension. Way to go, you got 200,000 of taxable income. It's all showing up on the front page of your 1040 tax return. And they went, you mean there's another way? And I go, yeah. They were going to keep paying 54,000 or more in tax the rest of their life. In 5 years doing a strategic rollout, they actually not only had the same income of 200,000, we increased their income to 240, but to compare apples to apples, 60% of that 200,000 in 5 years was tax-free. The IRS know they're receiving it, but now they only have to pay tax on 80,000 instead of 200, 21,000 in tax. Now they have 178,000 to live on. We saved them at a minimum 32 grand a year. Out to life expectancy, it was approaching $1 million that we saved them in tax. Now, my son Emron will be up here in a few minutes, and he's going to teach you about why these are tax-free. And sections of the code and tax citations, take special note. You'll read about them in the book, but he's going to talk about indexing. Let me just give you a little taste. When our clients, whether they're contributing monthly or lump sums, 100,000 a year or whatever, it's not what you begin with that counts, it's what you end up with. Let's say at retirement, you have $1 million in there. Now, people who had money in the market, that $1 million dwindled down to 600,000 twice in the Great Recession. Our clients didn't lose a dime in 2001 to 2003 or 2008. At the end of that Great Recession, many of our clients, that million doubled and tripled to 2.5, 3 million, when most Americans were barely back to break even. But $1 million in a laser fund might be earning 4% in the general account portfolio of this multi-billion-dollar or even trillion-dollar insurance company or companies. And anytime you want, you can just settle for that. That would be 40,000 if the market's going down. But if you feel bullish about America, in a year, you're going to learn, you can tell the insurance company, I don't want my million invested at risk in the market. Keep my million safe, but take the interest on my million this year and use that, in this example, 4%, use that 40,000 for an options budget. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll learn. They take that 40,000 and they buy upside options in the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, whatever, and you can diversify like crazy. And so if the market goes up, if the S&P goes up, that 40,000 of options allow them to pay you 8%, 80,000, or 12%, 120,000, or maybe even 61% if you choose a threshold strategy. But here's the deal. If you guess wrong and the market tanks, your million is still safe because it's not in the market. You only relinquish the interest on your million, and so you didn't make anything, but you didn't lose anything. And so zero is your hero when everybody else in the country is losing like 30% like they did during the COVID-19 pandemic. Here is this Great Recession on the left from November of 1999, ending 2012. If you had your money in the market, in the S&P, you would have lost 35 to 40% from 2001 to 2003. It took 4 years to come back to above break even. And then what happened in 2008, as Warren Buffett put it, when the tide went out in 2008, it revealed who was swimming naked, he said. They weren't protected. Our clients were cheering who had laser funds in 2008 because they weren't losing a dime. And they picked up where they left off the first 90 days of 2009. Many of them locked in gains of 16% tax-free after not losing a dime. So at the end, instead of just having $1,046,800 to show for the million they started with 12 years earlier, many of our clients, their million was worth 2.5 to 3 million. So this is key, and I want you to learn this. These are sample statements, actual results, where people are credited and they diversify in one single laser fund in 5 different indices or indexes: 14.89, 10.25, 15.07, 8, 13. In March of 2020 to March of 2021, when they changed a strategy, which is those opportunities come when there's anxiety, there's opportunity. Here's this client that had 852,000. That was just a part in his laser fund. It grew to $1,387,000 in one single year. And if the market would have crashed the next year, he would not lost one dime of that $535,000 he made the year before. That's called lock-in and reset. So get ready to learn this. Unfortunately, I'm not a doomsdayer, but I am a realist. This sinking ship out there, if the economy sinks, unfortunately, many of our congressional revenuers, they're sort of rearranging deck chairs, thinking by shifting spending here and there that we're going to spend our way out of a recession, out of inflation. Folks, it's simple economics. If your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep becomes what? Your downfall. What we want you to do is to be able to board a lifeboat. Whatever happens to the economy, we want you to stay afloat. And so that's our goal today, but I want you to be open-minded to new ideas that may even seem counterintuitive, that maybe the 401k is not the cat's meow we thought it was. To realize that Uncle Sam is going to have to take a bigger and bigger piece of the American taxpayer's pie. So what can you do to be a red-blooded American? I think we should all pay our fair share of tax, but you'll actually do more for your country by taking ownership than just rolling over and saying, okay, tax me during my golden years, okay? So I want you to make sure you claim your free copy later on from your assigned laser fund specialist. I'll show you that. These buckets that I just went through are explained on page 237, chapter 14 of the book. The last thing I want to share with you, many people come to this retire by design because they're thinking with blinders, I want to have a better retirement, not outlive my money, be immune from taxes, inflation, and market volatility. And so this IUL, the way it's structured, is like the dream solution. There's a death benefit that comes along, so to speak, but most structure it primarily for the living benefits. It knocks the socks off of traditional IRAs or 401ks invested in the market. And then people say, wait, could I use it for college funding for my kids and grandkids? Absolutely. It beats 529 plans. How about working capital for your business? Absolutely. How about real estate management? That's what I use. Emergency funds. How about any lump sums or settlements? How about estate planning? How about pension maximization if you're a school teacher, police officer, or firefighter? Yep. Tax reduction. Folks, it's like a financial Swiss Army knife. So open your minds. Our focus today is on the least understood, those things that will have the greatest impact. I want you to claim your entitlement abolition book right now by filling out the survey. And so let me show you what the survey looks like. When it comes up, you put your name, last name, your best email, your best phone number, okay? Now, if you're a financial planner, please be honest. And if you say yes, okay, you will have the opportunity to speak with someone on our team to facilitate your interests so that you can be the best financial advisor you can be, okay? And so this will come up if you're a financial advisor, and you can download the event workbook, but you go in and register here. Now, for the rest of you, you will fill out these 6 numbers. These are totally confidential. We don't share these with anybody, but these are the ones we look at here in the next 60 minutes, and then we assign you to the creme de la creme IUL specialist that will look at this. Because I look at these and I go, oh, wow, this person's going to pay $230,000 of unnecessary tax. I can usually tell that in about 60 seconds. So your annual gross income, how much do you save on a monthly basis, the value of your qualified accounts, that's IRAs, 401ks yet to be taxed, or even maybe your Roths. Estimated value of your non-qualified, non-IRA 401ks, the value of all your real estate and all what you owe. If I see those 6 numbers, I can see opportunities, and I actually assign you to an IUL specialist that will help you solve things that I see that you will want to learn about, okay? But they won't twist your arm to do anything. Now, at the end, you'll be assigned to a separate breakout room. And so when my son Emron comes up here next, when he's done, you'll actually be assigned to a separate breakout room virtually by Zoom based upon your assigned specialist. You'll do a little meet and greet. And then you'll come back in, and my son Aaron will come up and show you numbers, examples of tax-free income, and indexing options, okay? This is not about us, this is about you. So what I want you to do when you're filling out the survey, this is critical. Match your Zoom name. Look at the name on your Zoom there. Match that Zoom name and make it sure it's the same as the survey name so we know that's the same person. So you go in there and you right-click if you need to rename who you are. Does that make sense? Just make sure your Zoom name is the same as your survey name. So do that, right-click, enter the new name. When you do that and complete your survey now, you can scan that QR code. Imran is going to come up, my son, and he's going to talk about what makes this different. Get ready. He's going to cover, I'll put this up again, how to reduce taxes on your IRAs or 401ks. He's one of the top tax strategists in America. Create your own tax-free retirement income and how to create gains and eliminate losses. When you fill out your survey, you will download the RBD digital workbook. So make sure you complete the survey. You'll get the digital workbook. You will want that in front of you next. So Imran, are you ready to take it away?
Ready, thank you. I
betcha.
appreciate it. I'm excited to be with everybody here today. Let me have you can just take that away right there. Okay. Let me just switch this around a little bit. My name's Imran Andrew. I am thrilled to be with everybody here today and excited to go deeper into some of the strategies my dad talked about here. Give me just a minute while I go ahead and get the screen to adjust. And like Doug said there, if you're filling out the survey, get that filled out. And once you've got the survey filled out, come back in Zoom and just ensure that your Zoom name is matched up with your survey name so that when we do assign the breakout rooms, we can actually find you because we have no idea who sometimes Zoom guest number 1 is or Zoom guest 2 or we don't know who that is. So if you're looking at wanting to make sure you take advantage of what Doug just talked about there, go ahead and make sure you do that. You change your Zoom name to match your survey name. Okay. Well, good. I think I've got my screen up now. Nope. Is it? Hold on here. Give me a second. Let's see. Did it? Are you guys getting it?
Not right now. It was showing Zoom.
Just a minute here. We'll unplug and try to replug in and see if it will recognize it. But like Doug mentioned here, I'm going to be going through some tax reduction strategies, some tax-free retirement income strategies, and how to pursue gains without losses, right? How do we avoid these losses? And so we're going to be diving deep into this here. Let me make sure it's there. Yes, extend. Grab that. And now I hope, let's see here, you guys are seeing that there, right? Fantastic. So again, if you haven't completed your survey, go ahead and get that done. Next thing here is match your Zoom name to your survey name. Again, just simply right-click down there. If you see that, click on that little deal right there that says rename. Let me get my pen here working. Just hit that, rename yourself, and then just enter in a new name below and make sure the Zoom name matches your current name. So in order to reduce your taxes, pursue tax-free retirement income and gains without losses, I want to ensure that everybody understands the miracle of compound interest, because this is really at the core of achieving everything that we're talking about here. How do we protect? How do we preserve compound interest? And do we understand what compound interest is? Right? A lot of times I think we think, yeah, I think I understand. I think I understand how powerful is compound interest. And so just to kind of illustrate the power of the miracle of compound interest, we're going to do just a real simple exercise here. If you have a scratch piece of paper, you can actually just do this alongside me right here. So if you have a spare piece of paper, just rip out a spare piece of paper real quick right here, and we're going to do a real simple exercise. And I want you to take out this spare piece of paper here, and I want you to take it, and I want you to fold your piece of paper in half. Okay, so if you grab your pieces of paper, go ahead and grab those there. Once you've got them, go ahead and take that piece of paper and just simply fold it in half right here. I fold it in half hamburger style, right? I guess this is hamburger style. This is a hot dog. If you go the high side, a hot dog style. Go ahead and fold it hamburger style, right? We got hamburger style fold right there. Now take your sheet of paper here. You got it folded in half once. Let's go ahead and fold it in half again. Now, how many times, let's go ahead and get that second fold in there, maybe even a third or fourth fold. How many times can you physically fold a sheet of paper? I mean, what is the general consensus? When you look at this, how many times can you physically fold a sheet of paper? I think the general consensus is around 7. I think that's the most common answer I get is that the most amount of times you can physically fold a sheet of paper is about 7 times, unless you caught the same episode of Mythbusters that I caught. And that's where I saw the Mythbusters fold a sheet of paper 13 times. Now, granted, that sheet of paper was the size of a football field, and they did cheat. They used a crane and a bulldozer to help fold their sheet of paper for them. But regardless here, we've got this sheet of paper folded maybe 3 or 4 times. Now, I know you can't fold it more than maybe 6 or 7 times, so instead, I need you to use your imagination, okay? Use your imagination, and I want you to imagine that you have just folded this sheet of paper over a total of 50 times. Okay, we folded the sheet of paper over a total of 50 times. How thick would this sheet of paper now be? If you had folded this sheet of paper over a total of 50 times, how thick would this sheet of paper now be? Go ahead and pull it open right there, or write in the chat right there, write to what your best guess is. You know, and you've done this before, that's great, but if not, go ahead and just simply write down your answer. How thick do you think this sheet of paper is now going to be? And if I got a couple of brave people in there, go ahead and throw it in the chat. Throw in your chat. Could some of you give me an answer here? How is it going to be? Is it going to be 12 inches, 6 inches, 5 millimeters? Give it to me in the form of a measurement that we understand, whether that be in inches, feet, or yards, or even miles. Okay, give me an answer here of how thick do you think this sheet of paper is now going to be? If you folded the sheet of paper over a total of 50 times, how thick would this now be? Now, I've needed a couple of answers here in the chat right here so we can move on, because I need to make sure everybody's with me and everybody understands the miracle of compound interest, because this is absolutely critical. You have to grasp and understand this miracle, this concept, if we are going to create a properly structured or create a laser fund like Doug talks about here. So I've got a couple answers right there. 1 yard, maybe Jen says a foot thick. Yermo says 200 feet. Let me get a couple of answers. I got 3 people here. We've got a couple hundred people on the Zoom right here. Let's get a couple more. Juan says all the way to the moon. 100,000 feet. You know, I'm getting a bunch of, a couple different responses and answers in here. You know, how thick is this going to be? I mean, and the miracle about this is what happens? What happens every time you fold the sheet of paper in half? What happens to the sheet of paper? It's doubling, right? It doubles in size every single time you fold it. So in fact, if it were possible to fold this sheet of paper over a total of 50 times, I've got even Mike in there, 35 million miles. Even Mike is a little bit off here. It is actually going to be 93 million miles thick. 93 million miles. That's the distance from the Earth to the sun. That's from here to the sun. 50 folds. If you were able to fold a sheet of paper over 50 times, you would travel from here all the way to the sun. Now, let me ask you a simple question. How many folds does it take to get to the sun and all the way back? Okay, if it took us 50 folds to get to the sun, how many more folds does it take to get all the way back? 1, that's right. 1 is actually right. It takes 1 additional fold, not 100 folds. So Jen, that's the most common answer. It takes 100 folds. No, it took me 50 folds to get to the sun, but 1 additional fold doubles and gets me all the way back. This is the miracle of compound interest. And this is what we need to understand here, because this is what we've got to protect from taxes, folks. Because I want to show you here in a minute here, what do taxes do to this miracle? Because really, this is what helps us overcome the number one fear of money. The number one fear of money when you talk to people, especially as they're approaching retirement years, is the fear of running out of money. And the biggest drawdown on your money tends to be taxes and or losses due to the market, right? We lose more money in the market or lose more money in taxes and then in the market than anywhere else. And so if we can help you shore these two things up here, what could it do for you? Now, whenever I start any kind of financial strategy for anybody, the one thing I've really learned from my dad is really we need to start with the end in mind. In other words, how do we find out the end goal? Well, to find out the end goal, you need to start with the why, right? You've seen a lot of books on this recently, and the whole concept is always ask the why. Start with the why. So if I am looking at pursuing financial freedom, one of the very first questions I want to ask each and every one of you is, why are you saving your money? Why are you growing your money? So why are you doing this? Why are you saving money and why are you growing your money? Well, I think most Americans, is the easiest response I get from most people here, is most people save their money and grow their money so that someday they can access it. Right? I mean, isn't that right? I'm assuming most of you are saving it so someday you can retire, you can hang it up, and you can go start accessing this money. I mean, I'm assuming most of us don't save it so that we can swim in it. If you're a fan of Disney and DuckTales and you see Scrooge McDuck swimming in his money, well, that's great. I don't think most of us are saving our money and growing our money so that we can swim in it. Most of us save our money and grow our money so that we can access it. Okay, and this is where we have to start with the end in mind, because most financial planning never ever talks to you, or they never plan for your ability to access it. They try to plan for growth, they try to throw rates of return around to you everywhere, but the whole key here is you've got to have this discussion on, how do I access my money and how much can I access it? So the secret right here to the number one secret we look at starting right here is focusing on the correct objective. Right? Focus on the correct objective, which is accessing your money and ability. Because if not, you're going to get stuck into some traps. There's several financial traps, and the most common financial trap is the tax trap, right? And as we look at the financial tax trap here, let's look and see what this does to our money. We see the miracle of compound interest. So let's look at this again. We've got $1, and we're doubling our dollar, and we're going to double that 20 times. And if I were to double $1 20 times right here, let me just see something here. Why can't I get that to all erase? That is just not erasing off of my screen. I don't know why. But anyway, if you were to double $1 20 times, you would end up with $1 million. Okay, you'd have $1 million. Now let's see what the tax trap does to this miracle of compound interest. Because if you take $1 and double to 2, 4, 6, 8, and you double all the way to $1 million, but let's go back to my original dollar and assume every time I grow my money, I'm going to have to pay taxes, right? I got to pay my taxes on my growth. So if I have to pay taxes on my growth, let's see what happens to my end balance at the end of the day. So I'm going to assume a 25% tax bracket. Okay, a 25% tax bracket. So if I grow from $1 to $2, I got to pay 25% in tax on my growth, just my growth, not my principal, just my growth. So if I go from $1 to $2, I pay 25% in tax. I'm going to net $1.75, right? Everybody following me? And then I take the $1.75 and I double that, and I only pay tax on the growth. And then I double that number and only tax the growth. I do that 20 times. Okay, I do that 20 times. How much money do you think we would end up with? Instead of having $1 million, you're going to have less. How much less would you assume you would have if you had to pay 25% in tax every time your money grew? How much do you think we did? Over 20 periods of growing and doubling, what would we end up with? What would we end up with? Well, sadly speaking here, if we look at this, you would end up with a whopping $72,000. $72,000. Not $750,000. 72 taxes erode away the miracle of compound interest. Does anybody want to see what happens if we add like a state of California? If we want to add a state of California's income tax, the state income tax on top of this. Anybody want to see what happens to Californians when they do this? Okay, if you're living in California or New York, or if you live in most states that might have a income tax on there, let's just add another 8.5%. Now, some people in California have to pay 13.5%, but we're just going to add another 8.5%. And then if you added only another 8.5% to this, you would end up with a measly $27,000. $27,000. And then you wonder why everybody why you see so many people exiting California in retirement and moving to places like Texas or other places that don't even have a state income tax in there. So I need you to kind of start deciding. This is now started analyzing, where are you at? Okay, where are you at and where do you want to be? So if you had a chance to download your workbook, this is an opportunity right here for you to jump in and see here, what is it that I want to do here? And go through and start looking at the workbook in here. What is my advisor focused on for my retirement? Are they focused on the club, or are they focused on my strategy? Because it's really the strategy, the swing, that's going to get you to financial security and to financial independence. And looking at some of these other things in here. What is some of the things we should start be focusing on, and where am I at? So as I lean into this a little bit here, you can kind of follow along with me in your workbook right here, and we're going to continue into this. Because when we look at it, most financial planning ends up looking like this battery on the left, where you're just praying. You're just praying that your money is going to last as longer than you do. Well, folks, this is a problem, because all we ever do is when we go to our financial advisor, we focus on one question. Hey, how much money is in my account? How much money do I have in my account? And we're concerned about how much, and you should be concerned with how much money is in your account, but it shouldn't be the question. The real question, again, is start with the end in mind. Your real question should be is, how much money can I access in the time of life when I need it the most? How much money am I going to be able to access this year, next year, and forevermore? How much money am I going to be able to access? Because that truly gives you the idea of where you're at and how long is your money going to really last. Because when you really look at this, you start asking yourself better questions when making financial decisions. The first question you look at is starting doing some better tax planning. Because you start thinking about not just now, you start thinking about the future. Because let me ask you a simple question. How many of you, by raise of hand, how many of you believe that future tax rates are most likely going to be lower? No? Nobody thinks they're going to be. How many of you think the future tax rates are going to be the same? So by raise of hand then, how many of you think they're most likely going to be higher? Right? There's the hands, all right? I see all the hands going up. There all they are. The writing's on the wall. It's not hard to see this, right? We know that tax rates are most likely going to be higher. So if that's the case, you must ask yourself the next question. Well, if future tax rates are most likely going to be higher, what should I be doing right now? What should I be doing right now? Because this will help you start making better decisions. Because I probably would rather get my taxes over and done with at today's lower rates than procrastinating and paying tomorrow's higher rates. And this is the biggest challenge, because most CPAs are doing what? Most CPAs, you go to a CPA and they're trying to help you save tax when? Now or later? CPAs are trained and taught how to save you tax now. And the easiest way they try to save you tax now is by kicking the can down the road, by procrastinating it till tomorrow. Because if they can procrastinate it long enough, they'll retire and leave you out high and dry. Okay, I mean, if you go study for the CPA, if you go to college, you learn these principles. It's all about kicking that, and it's not the proper financial planning, right? You need to do what's right for you in the future when you need the money the most. And there's multiple ways the government raise taxes on us. They simply raise the rate, they manipulate and change our tax thresholds, and they eliminate deductions. This is the one that we all pay attention to, right? That's the one the government wants you to watch this one. And while you're watching this one, their sleight of hand is manipulating the other two. Let me show you this. Because over the last over 100 years now, we first started paying taxes as American people to the federal government in 1913. So since 1913, what's the highest tax rate we have ever paid to the federal government? What's the highest tax rate the federal government has ever had in the federal government system? What's the highest rate? The highest rate we have ever seen over the last 100 years is 94%. Did you know that? We've had a tax rate in our country as high as 94%. In fact, historically, the high rate has averaged 55%. Right now, we're at 37%, and that's why you see a lot of politicians back in Washington trying to make the argument that, hey, we are below the historical average. Therefore, if we're below the average, we need to do what? We need to raise tax rates back up again, right? But while they're threatening that, we're all freaked out because they're going to raise tax rates on us. The most effective way the government has ever raised your tax bill on you is not by raising the tax rate. It's actually by manipulating the tax threshold. It's by manipulating the tax threshold. Let me give you the example of this. Let's go all the way back here to 1917. Okay, 1917, the highest tax rate at the time was 68%. Okay, 68% was the high tax rate. And I'm going to take an American today that's making over $400,000 to $500,000 a year. If you're making over $400,000 to $500,000 a year in your job, is that a good job? Is that a good income? I mean, I think most Americans would concede that $400,000 to $500,000 a year income is a great income. I mean, that's a fantastic income. You know, and so if that's the case there, if I take that exact same person today and I pluck them today and I go transplant them clear back, I go back in time and I put them back in 1917, in 1917 dollars, that means they're making about 20 grand a year. Okay, so if they have equivalent income of $400,000 to $500,000 today and they're making that same income back in 1917, what tax rate were they in? Where was their tax rate? I mean, the high rate was 68%. Does that mean they were in the 68% tax bracket? Or what tax bracket were they in? Most of us believe that they would probably be, and it makes sense that they're probably somewhere in the top half of those tax brackets, right? Wrong. Clear back in 1917, somebody making $400,000 to $500,000 a year in income was paying a maximum tax rate, their tax bracket, even though the highest tax bracket was 68%, their tax bracket was 12%. 12%. Whereas that exact same American today is paying 35%. Okay, the highest rate we have is 37. Back then it was 68, but we have more Americans in higher tax brackets than we have ever had in our country's history, due to the government slowly manipulating and changing tax thresholds. Folks, that's a 200% increase. That means your tax bill tripled. If next year, in next year's election, you know, they went ahead in Congress and the president said, we're going to triple your taxes next year, would we vote for that person? I mean, I don't think anybody in their right mind would vote for anybody who says, I'm going to triple your taxes. Yet all of our politicians over the last 100 years have secretly and by sleight of hand slowly done just that. You know, we have voted people in that have slowly increased that. In fact, they've done it so slowly here that they're going to eventually boil us to death. Let me ask you a simple question. Does everybody remember back in science class when you studied, you know, did anybody ever study how or talk about or discuss how to effectively boil a frog? Right? Do you remember that? Do you remember how to effectively boil a frog? How do we effectively boil a frog? Do you just throw a frog into a boiling pot of water? No, if you throw a frog in a boiling pot of water, it jumps out, right? Instead, we do what? We go ahead and we put it into lukewarm or cold water, and Jen's got it right. We slowly heat it up. And if you slowly heat the water up, the frog just sits in there until the water is boiling and the frog is dead. It boils itself to death. The frog doesn't ever move. Folks, I hate to break it to you, but in this story, in this metaphor, we're the frog, right? We're the frog, and the government is just slowly heating it up. They constantly keep on slowly heating it up. Now, the second most effective way that the government raises taxes on us is actually by eliminating deductions. And it's funny because as retirees, when you retire, did you know you lose your 3 largest tax breaks or deductions? So when you retire, our system is designed to make you eliminate your best deductions when you retire. What are they? Well, number one, you lose your mortgage interest, right? You finally got that house paid down or paid off, so you don't have a mortgage interest anymore. You got the standard deduction, but your house is finally paid down, paid off, so you're not itemizing anymore. You're at a mortgage. You're just simply on a standard deduction. Okay, so I don't get to itemize anymore because it's too small. What's the next one I lose? My children, right? My children are finally grown up and moved out, or the hope is that they've moved out. I don't know what the deal is today. I mean, they grow up, they just never move out, right? Or they move out and boomerang back in. So even if they boomerang back in, or even if they never move out, as soon as they hit adulthood, you no longer get to count them on your taxes. So you might have the expense, but you don't get the tax break. What's the next one? The next one is the highest one, one of the largest deductions we lose in retirement, and we don't even think about it. And that is simply our IRA and 401k contributions. All the money we're shoving away into these retirement accounts, trying to prepare for retirement, especially right before retirement, we're shoving as much money as we possibly can into these accounts. And then all of a sudden you retire. Are you still shoving money into these accounts? No. So if you don't keep on putting money in those accounts, you don't keep on getting a deduction. And in fact, not only are you not putting money in, what are you doing? You're pulling money out. So now you're pulling that money out and making it subject to taxes. That's why I see so many Americans, when they hit retirement, even if their income goes down, their actual tax bill oftentimes goes up because more of their income is exposed to the tax rate. Which brings me to danger number two, which is the fact is, as Americans, we are willfully handing over our financial future to the government, primarily through things like IRAs and 401ks. Now, folks, let's just break down an IRA or 401k real simply here. What is an IRA or 401k? Because if I break it down to it simple and look at it real simply here, an IRA or 401k is not a sole proprietorship. In other words, it's not an account that is solely owned by you. No, an IRA or 401k is a financial partnership. Think of going into business. And if you could go into business with somebody, and you wanted to make sure that you had a good business partner, who's the first business partner you would choose to make sure that they had control over your financial future? Would you all choose somebody like Uncle Sam? Would that be your first choice? Hey, I want the government to choose what my financial future in this financial partnership is going to look like. But that's effectively exactly what we're doing, because an IRA or 401k is a partnership with the government. And the government gets to dictate the split of ownership, because they can change their ownership any day they want by simply raising and or lowering taxes. But don't you worry, because Uncle Sam, the government, they have your best interest at heart, right? I mean, think about this. It's time for us to declare financial freedom. And the secret I want to talk about here is we've got to take control back. We've got to take control of our financial future. We've got to take this control back. We can't simply rely on this here. Because I talk to so many people, and so many people, they get to retirement, and they've got money diversified in all sorts of different places, like IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457, SEPs, deferred comp, pensions, Social Security. They got money in savings, CDs, stocks, bonds, EFTs, mutual funds, annuities, and even real estate. That's great. There is nothing wrong with having money invested in any one of these areas. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if all of your money is only invested in these areas, they all have one thing in common. And what is that? They are all subject to taxes. Folks, it is miraculous when you will take the time and the effort to understand what could happen for you if you diversify part of your portfolio away from future taxes. I mean, the comfort, the ease, The peace that it brings when I know that I've got 40% of my portfolio over here in a tax-free environment. So even if Uncle Sam does raise taxes back up to 50, 60, or even 70%, or even 94%, it doesn't matter for this money over here because this money over here is always taxed at the same rate. What is it? Zero. Zero, 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 and zero. I mean, I can't make it more predictable than a tax rate of zero. And that's the kind of peace and comfort we want to bring to your serious cash. Okay, the cash that you need to rely on, the cash that you can't afford to lose. Like if you have play money, you want to play with some play money and have some more risky money over there, that's great. What we're talking today is about your financial foundation, your serious cash. How many of you have cash that you can't afford to lose? Right? That's the kind of money we're talking about right here. And with that kind of money, we need to start focusing. We got to focus on the right thing. So I'm going to break up your financial strategy into 4 different phases here. Okay, I've got number 1, your contribution phase. Number 2, your accumulation phase. Number 3, your distribution phase. And finally, number 4, a transfer phase. So if I'm starting with the end in mind, why am I saving this money? So that I can access it someday? Well, what phase is the phase where I'm consistently accessing my money? Well, that's phase number 3, my distribution phase, right? So this is the phase I need to stay focused on here. Okay, I got to keep my eye on the ball. Now, the funny thing is, financial planners love to take your eye off the ball. The government loves to dictate to fiduciaries and financial planners rules that will help you take the eye off the ball because they all want you to focus on the accumulation phase. It's fun. It's sexy. The miracle of compound interest. It is critically important, but it's the means to the goal. It is not the goal. Do not make the mistake that so many people today are making. They are allowing them and their financial advisors to make the means to the goal the goal. No, that is not the right way because if you do that, you end up being subject to the 4% rule. I mean, what is the 4% rule? I mean, if you take a financial planning course almost in any university across this country, you're going to come across the 4% rule. And that is simply that they've looked at the algorithm and said, look, if you follow what we tell everybody to do, if you follow traditional advice and you retire, you should never access more than 4% a year in order to ensure you don't run out of money. So that means for every $1 million I have set aside for my future, I should not access more than 4% of that in my retirement. So for every $1 million, I shouldn't access more than 40 grand. How exciting is that? Does that sound very, $1 million, I can only access 40 grand? I mean, okay, I might be able to, downsize my golden years, downsize my dreams. And, if I eliminate my dreams, then maybe I can live off of this 40 grand. Then all of a sudden you get there and you pull out this 40 grand, but this 40 grand comes from where? It comes out of an IRA or 401k. Whoops! You still got to pay taxes on that. So all of a sudden you pay taxes on the 40 grand and you might only be netting as little as $26,400. You're going to be somewhere in between those two numbers. Now all of a sudden we're in this survival mode. We're just trying to survive, praying. This is why so many people have the fear of running out of money. Because of what's going on right here with so many others ahead of them. And what we look at here inside of the Laser Fund, Doug has been teaching this now for 40 plus years. For 45, almost 50 years now, we've seen the ability and the miracle of keeping your eye on the ball. How do you access the most amount of money in the time of life that you need it the most? When we ask ourselves that question, we come up with new solutions, new answers. Because in that same area right there, we have laser funds today that have been paying out 6 to 10% tax-free to our clients. I mean, if I have the same $1 million over there on that right-hand side of the screen, 6 to 10% is $60,000 to $100,000 tax-free. So now I get to keep all 60 to 100. How much larger is 60 to 100,000 than a measly 26 to 40,000? This is the kind of freedom that we are creating and we can create for you. This is the kind of freedom that you can create here. So again, in your workbook, find out, identify, where are you currently, right? Where am I currently and where do I really want to be? Ask yourself, How much money do I have in tax-deferred investments, and how much do I want, and how much do I have in tax-free versus how much do I want? Okay, identify. It all starts with knowing where you are and where you want to go. So you need to start identifying that, because as you identify that, we can help you achieve it the smartest, quickest way. Because the biggest mistake some people make is like, well, dude, I just want to be tax-free tomorrow. Well, if you try to transition from being taxable to tax-free tomorrow, you're trying to divorce your toxic government partner. You're trying to divorce the government in one day. And they tend to just take you to the cleaners if you do it overnight. No, we want to be smart about this. We're going to be smart, and we're going to show you how we have showed our clients how to pay the least amount of taxes. How many of you want to know and understand how to pay the least amount of taxes on your IRAs, your 401ks, your 403bs, and convert that over to tax-free for the rest of your life? How many of you want to know how to do that? Right? And if that's what you're there, that is what we're going to teach you here. That is what it is. And as we do so, we're also going to help you do the next best thing, which is not only are we going to help you pay the least amount of tax on your retirement accounts as possible, in the meantime, we're also going to help you prevent yourself from violating Warren Buffett's #1 rule to money. Does anybody know what Warren Buffett's #1 rule to money is? Warren Buffett's #1 rule to money, #1 rule to investing is what? Don't lose money. Right? Don't lose money. In fact, it's such an important rule that he states rule #2 is don't forget rule #1. Okay? Why is this? Because Buffett and other affluent people have learned, and they know that losses have bigger impacts than gains do. Let me repeat that. Losses have bigger impacts than gains do. So if I have a certain amount of money, and I have that money, and I right out of the gate, I make a 50% return. I have a 50% gain, but then the market kind of drops on me, and I have a 50% loss. But then the market rebounds, and I have a 50% gain. But then I follow up with another market loss with a 50% loss. So if the market goes up 50%, down 50%, up 50%, down 50%, where am I? If the market goes up 50, down 50, up 50, down 50, where am I? Most people right there, just like Tropic is saying right there, most people think I'm back to where I've started. I'm zero. And that's not true. This is why Buffett is trying to teach you and all of us this. Because losses have bigger impacts than gains do. If I have $100,000, follow with me with me here. If I have $100,000 and I have a 50% gain, I now have $150,000. But then if the market crashes and the market goes down 50%, what's half of 150? Oh, that's right. It's only $75,000. So even if I go from 50 up to 150, 100 to up to 150, and I lose 50, I'm now down to 75,000. Even if the market recovers at a 50% gain, I'm only recovering at 75,000. So even with a 50% gain, I'm only back up to 112,500. I'm not back up to my high point. Then if the market loses another 50%, I'm down at $56,750. Okay, the market, I'm down 43%. This is how money works. We've got to understand how money works. None of this is ever taught in any high school class, right? We're never taught how money works. But a 50% loss has to be followed by a 100% gain just to break even. Because with money, it's not an additive, it's a multiplier, right? It's multiplication. It's not addition, it's multiplication. So that's why affluent people think differently. Okay, and I want to teach you 3 simple things to help you think like an affluent individual. You want to think like the Rockefellers. You want to think like Warren Buffett. Okay, you want to think like these affluent people. They think differently when it comes to money and investing. Okay, let me show you the 3 things they look at. Number 1, whenever they look at some kind of opportunity, number 1 question they ask is not how much money we're going to make. No, that's what we all ask. That's what we think we're supposed to ask, is how much money we're going to make. No, that's not the first question. The first question is, how do we eliminate losses? Okay, if you can answer that question satisfactory, with enough satisfaction, we can now ask question number 2, which is, how do we make money? How do we capture gains? Okay, but it starts with question number 1. How do I eliminate losses? Then I can look at how do I capture gains? And then the difference between those that become rich and those that are affluent. The affluent people ask the final question, right? Why does a Mitt Romney? Why does a Warren Buffett? Why do these wealthy people not pay? Why do they not pay as much in taxes? Because they're asking themselves the next question: how do we keep it? How do we keep it? How do we protect this money from taxes? Okay, this is how each one of you need to approach your serious cash now. So let's look at this. For example, if I were to use the S&P, if I'm going to use the market, I'm going to use the stock market as a way to help me make money. And this is the opportunity I'm looking for. So I'm going to look at the S&P 500. We all have access to the S&P 500. But when I look at the S&P 500, instead of just going straight into the S&P, the problem is the market violates Warren Buffett's number 1 rule, which is what? It's got losses. So if I was just going straight into the S&P with no additional strategies in place, I'm losing money. I could lose money. I could lose money tomorrow, right? I just don't know. I could make money, but I could lose money. So what we're going to look at here, that's number 1. Number 2, how do I capture gains? Well, you can see as the market goes up here, yeah, I might be able to capture gains right there, okay. But really, I shouldn't even go on to number 2 here because I've already violated rule number 1. But then the final thing is okay, I have losses. I might be able to have some gains, but then any gains I do have, I'm going to have to pay taxes on. Now let's look at what we introduce inside of a laser fund, because a laser fund still uses the S&P 500. But now we wrap, instead of it being a club, the S&P is a club. I'm going to teach you a swing. What would you rather have going into a professional golf tournament? Would you rather have Phil Mickelson swing, or would you rather have his clubs, right? I'm not Warren Buffett. He uses the S&P 500, but that's the club. I want Warren Buffett's swing. So let me introduce you to the swing, because the 3 strengths of IUL is number 1. You do not lose when the market goes down. You do not lose. Boom, right there. Guaranteed you do not lose when the market goes down due to the market going down. How would you sleep better at night? Would you breathe a little bit easier if you knew, throughout this year, even the election happens, we know the market's going to crash at some point, but when it crashes, you knew that you would not lose. How much better are you going to feel about your financial future? Number 2, we lock in our gains and we reset our growth point. This is huge. And I wish I had more time to talk about this here, but I want you to all take a note. I want you to all write down, lock in, and reset. Okay, I want you to write that down, because when you have an opportunity to sit down and meet one-on-one with one of our specialists, I want you to ask them to explain better and deeper, go deeper into lock in and reset. In fact, you can even go deeper into chapter 5 and 6. Read chapter 5 and 6 of the Laser Fund. It's going to go into detail into lock in and reset. And finally, number 3, a laser fund or an IUL is tax-free on the back end. When I go to access my money, it's tax-free. I have tax-free harvest. So, if I was a farmer, I get to go ahead and I get to enjoy my harvest tax-free. I might pay taxes on the price of the seed in the springtime, but I get to enjoy my harvest tax-free in the fall. So we do this. How do we do this? We do this through a strategy called indexing. This is the swing strategy that I want to help you understand just a little bit better of. So with indexing, you have certain variables that come into play for your strategy. Number 1, our first variable is, yes, we're using the S&P 500. But number 2 here, I'm going to have what I introduced right here is a floor, a guaranteed floor of 0%. So that means whenever the market goes down, goes negative, the worst I could do is I get 0. The worst I can do is I get 0. So what I just do here, I just satisfied Warren Buffett's number 1 rule of money. Don't lose money. Boom, number 1's done. I have a floor of 0%. I cannot lose when the market goes down. Okay? The next variable is, how do I capture gains? Well, to capture gains, we're going to look at certain things here. We're going to, 1, look at, number one, we're going to look at a participation rate. Okay. How much of the market growth do I get to participate in? Meaning, really simply put, if I have a 100% participation rate, I get 100% of whatever the S&P grows to. So if the S&P grows to 8.97, I would get 8.97. If my participation rate were 50%, I'd only get half of 8.97. If my participation rate were 200%, I would get double what the S&P does. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's your participation rate. Your next thing you're looking at here is, and so I get 8.97, 0, 32, 4, 8, 12, 0, 55. So far, so good. Everything's looking good here. In fact, everything's looking a little bit so far too good, right? So far, too good. So that's why we look at the next variable. The next variable here on the growth is going to be what you introduce typically as either a cap or a threshold. Okay, so there's usually a ceiling. If I'm using the S&P 500, for example, I'm going to have a ceiling in place. So there's most ceilings today are usually between 11 to 13%. Okay, so the most I can do is like 11 to 13%. So if the market does 32%, I don't get 32%. I get 11 to 13. I get whatever my cap is. Okay, so I get that cap rate 11 or 13%. Is that making sense? Okay, so in here I'd get 8.97, 11 to 13, 4, 8, 12, 0. I wouldn't get my 55 right here. I'd get 11 to 13. Okay, and then so on and so forth. So that's how a cap works. Now, when we look at this right here, we're going to now, instead of a cap, you can also instead use a threshold strategy. Okay, a threshold strategy is there is no cap. Okay, there is no ceiling. You're like, wait a minute, I don't want a ceiling. I want to be able to see the big, beautiful sky. When the market goes up, I want to go up. When it goes 50, I don't want to lose out on this opportunity when the market goes 55%. I don't want to lose out on that opportunity. Okay, so if you don't want to be left behind or you don't want to be left out when the market goes up like that, we also have introduced the threshold or the no cap strategy. Now the threshold strategy says there's no cap, you just have a threshold, meaning you get whatever the market does minus a threshold. And that threshold is typically somewhere between negative 5%. Okay, so you get whatever the market does minus 5 to typically it's between 10 to 10%. I've seen it as high as 15%, but it's usually between 5 to 10% right there. So if the market does X, I get X minus my threshold. So if most of the time during my experiences here, it's been closer to 5%, right? But even if it's as high as 10% right here, let's say the market shoots up and does 55%. I don't get 55, I get 55 minus 10. I would get 45%. Or if my threshold was 5%, I'd get 50%. Okay? Now here's the question. Can I have both a cap and a threshold? Or do I have to choose one or the other? And the answer is yes, you can diversify between caps and or thresholds. And or wouldn't it be nice to have wouldn't it be nice to work with somebody who has the most experience out of anybody in this entire country of when should you be in a cap strategy and when should you be in a threshold strategy? Would any of you like to work with an office that has more experience than any other office in the entire country when it comes to this? Well, let me introduce you to that office. That is us. That is Doug. Doug has been doing this. Doug and his office, our office has been doing this longer than anybody else in the entire country. We have more experience with this, and we have perfected the ability to kind of move between a cap and a threshold. I say as much as you can perfect it. Because let me show you this here. Because over the last 20 years, we've been able to do things more like this, where you've gotten 8.97 cap. I'm in a cap strategy here. But then it's not that hard, folks. When do you want to move into a threshold strategy? It's when the market's going to go up. How many of you can predict when the market goes up? Can you? You can. Okay? You can predict when the market goes up because the market always goes up after it goes what? After it goes down. Okay? Right there, whenever the market crashes. Was everybody aware the market crashed when we had COVID-19 back in March of 2020? Did everybody remember when the market crashed in 2008? Does everybody remember 9/11 and the market crashed back in 9/11? I mean, this isn't that hard. When the market crashes, we move our clients out of a cap strategy into a threshold strategy. Now, here's the beautiful part about this. I move them after the market crashes. You do not have to have your money moved before. Why? Because when the market goes down, I don't what? I don't lose. Okay, I don't lose. But now when I reset my growth point, I'm actually going to reset my growth point with a new strategy. So now over the last 20 years, we can get 8.97000, 27, 4, 8, 11, 0, 50, 2, 11, 11, 11, 0, 11, 11, 0, 11, 0. And then this is where my dad talked about us getting a 66 or a 61% rate of return. Now, I'm not just smoke and mirrors. Here, let me show you one of my clients. This is one of my clients right here. March of 2021, 1 year after COVID. What did we do? We put him in this no cap strategy. $872,000 made 61%. That means it made $535,000. So now that $870,000 is now worth $1.4 million. Okay. Now, I didn't keep him in March of 2021. The market had already recovered. We don't keep him in the no threshold threshold strategy. The next year, we immediately move them over. 2022 right here. He's in the 1 year a cap strategy, a high cap strategy, and a high participation rate strategy. So we got 5%, 5%, and 7%. His money was now diversified into 3 different strategies right there. But we got 5, 5, and 7. Now, what happened between 2022 and 2023? The market went down again. So when the market goes down right here in 2023, what do? We get 0%. We got 0%. Now, did the market crash in 2022? 2022, 2023? No, it didn't crash. And because it didn't crash, I didn't move them over to a no threshold strategy. I kept them right here in the cap strategy. So that this year in 2024, once again, they take their money right here and they lock in a 7% return, a 10% return, and a 6% return. We actually get to multiply those returns by 2.7, 2.4, and 2.7. Aaron might have a chance, or you might be able to have the chance of also asking your specialist about multipliers. Maybe inquire, write that word down as well and say, hey, explain multipliers to me. Because we just got that money to make $267,000. So here's that one policy. In 2021, it made $500,000. In 2022, it made $200,000. In 2023, it was protected. It didn't make or lose anything. But in 2024, it made $267,000. What does that add up to? In 4 years, since COVID, since 4 years right there, we've made $1 million. We've made $1 million in the last 4 years. That and what's the best part about this right here? This $1 million is all what? It's tax-free. That's just his growth, folks. That wasn't the $800,000 he had in the account. He's made $1 million tax-free. He's made $1 million tax-free. Okay, you don't have to have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to do this as well. Here's another account still. I've got $30,000 in this one in June of 2021 and $61,000 there. Still had a no cap strategy and a high cap strategy. So this one did 12%, this one did 30%. With this multiplier there though, I got to multiply that 30% by 2.7. That ends up being $61,000 made $51,000. So for every $60,000 you have, would you like to make $50,000 on that money? That's an 83% rate of return, right? That's an 83% rate of return tax-free. That is possible inside of a laser fund, inside of an IUL. Okay, that's what's possible right there. So once again, find out, let's identify and you to identify, take a moment here and identify where are you at when it comes to market losses? Are you exposed? Are you losing money? Are you going to lose money in the next market downturn? Will you lose and do you want to lose? Okay, if you're there, where do you really want to be? Where do you really want to be? Okay, and then we can help you get there as quickly and as easy as possible right there. So once again, we're going to take you through the 4 phases of retirement planning. We're going to assure not only do you pay not lose money there, but we're also going to make sure you pay the least amount of taxes possible. We're going to help you rethink your thinking, shifting gears over here to a place where we get tax-free growth on your accumulation phase. But not just there. Again, simply looking at this, we want to help you enjoy your harvest tax-free. I mean, just ask yourself that question. If you were a farmer and you were given the choice in the springtime when you go to buy your seed right here, You can either go ahead and avoid the taxes when you go to buy your seed. And if you avoid taxes on the price of your seed, you have to pay taxes on your entire harvest in the fall. Or you could go ahead and pay the tax on the price of the seed right here. And thus, in the fall, when you go to harvest your crop in the fall, you get to enjoy your harvest tax-free in the fall. What would you rather do? Well, this isn't rocket science. I mean, every farmer is going to choose the exact same thing. I want to enjoy my harvest tax-free in the fall. Okay, and that's exactly what we're looking at doing. Instead of an IRA or 401k strategy where you're protecting the seed, taxing your harvest, we're going to go ahead and tax the seed, and we're going to enjoy our harvest tax-free in the future right here. Okay, let's look at this. Again, I told everybody we'd show you how to pay the least amount of taxes possible. Here's a quick case study. Here's a client that I have from California. They live in San Francisco, California here. They're 62 years of age. He was going to retire at age 70 and a half and pull out RMDs. Now, RMDs are required at age 73, I think, for everybody here on today's event. What is an RMD? That's a required minimum distribution. How many of you knew that when you hit a certain age, when you hit 73, if you have money in IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, you got money in these different accounts, did you know that you have to access that money whether you need it or not? And if you don't, if you neglect to access money, the required amount of money that you're supposed to at age 73, your partner, your beautiful partner that has your best interest at heart gets to penalize the partnership. Not just the partnership, they get to penalize you. They get to penalize you. And what is your penalty for not accessing your money at age 73? What is the penalty? Does anybody know? It is a 50% penalty. It is a 50% penalty on what you did not withdraw. Okay, it's not 50% on your entire account. It's 50% on what you did not withdraw. Now, does that mean you got 50%? Does that also include your taxes on top as part of that 50%? No, it does not. Your taxes are on top of the 50%. So you have to pay taxes on top of this 50%. So that's why this client came to me and says, Amron, help me solve this tax trap. I've got $1.9 million that's going to keep on growing. By the time I hit age 70, I've created this massive tax trap for myself. So is there a better way? The answer is yes. We show him a strategic rollout, and it says strategic there because we're going to be smart about this. We don't just move $1.9 million all at once. We found the sweet spot within his income to pay the least amount of tax possible. We discovered that him pulling $200,000 a year out right now, starting at age 62, we start pulling out $200,000 right now. We pay the taxes, we net $160,000, and that's what goes over here into his laser fund. Okay, that's what goes over here to his laser fund. So we go ahead and fund that over there, and we're going to compare what this looks like if he had not done it versus if he had done it. So if he had not done this, by the time he hits age 70 and a half, when he wants to retire, he would now have $3.2 million in his IRAs and 401ks. $3.2 million. Yet, does he really have $3.2 million? Because again, that's a partnership. Actually, $1.1 million of that belongs to the government. And that's assuming tax rates do not go up. If between now and 8 years from now, the government decides they want a bigger piece of this pie, they can go ahead and take a bigger piece of this pie without you getting to have any say in it whatsoever. So we're assuming tax rates do not go up in this example. Okay, and if they don't go up, at age 70 and a half, he's going to have an RMD. In order to avoid a 50% penalty, he has to pull out $119,144. Okay, so he pulls that out. He's going to have to give $41,000 of that in taxes to the government, which means he nets $77,980. He nets $78,000. Okay, so that's what he and his wife get to go spend. In contrast, we showed him moving this money over to the laser fund. By the time he hits age 70 and a half, out of the laser fund, we're pulling out $233,000 a year, starting at age 70, and it lasts to age 120. That's net of any and all fees. I mean, I don't even care what the fees are in this situation. If I can create $233,000 a year of tax-free income in comparison to only a net of $77,000, and that's net of any and all fees, why wouldn't I? That starts at age 70 and goes to age 120. In fact, I could have even gone to beyond age 120, but I figured, he's like, dude, you're great. I'm not going to live to age 120. Okay, that ensures that I don't run out of money. Let's just take a snapshot all the way up to, let's say the client lives to age 100. Centurions, the fastest growing section of society today. If they lived to age 100, if they would have left their money in their IRAs and 401ks and only pulled out RMDs, they would have left behind to their loved ones $1.2 million. Okay, so they never ran out of money. They leave $1.2 million to their kids and grandkids. They got to spend $4.8 million in their retirement years, giving them a total net asset value after tax net asset value of $6 million. So their net asset value is $6 million. Compared to the laser fund strategy here, we leave behind $2.6 million to the kids and grandkids. More than double. We leave behind more than double. Not only that, they got to spend $7.2 million during their lifetime, tax-free, giving them a total asset value of $9.8 million. Folks, that is a 50% better result. How many of you could afford a 50% raise? Would you turn it down? Would you turn down a 50% raise? I sure hope not, right? It's time for you to claim your raise. It's time for you to claim your raise. So once again, right here, this is a simple worksheet that we help you take. This is the exact same exercise I just did with you right here. You can walk through, and you can even walk through this exercise right here with your specialist that you get assigned to for you to figure out how to pay the least amount of tax possible on your IRAs and 401ks. So I've given you the worksheet right there. Your specialist can help you walk through this worksheet and help you understand how to pay the least amount of taxes possible on your IRAs and 401ks. Now, once we do that, how do we keep it tax-free? Or in other words, what is a laser fund? At the end of the day, what is a laser fund? Well, a laser fund here is, obviously we get to accumulate, access, and transfer our money income tax-free inside of these accounts. But what is it? Well, the answers to this are found in the Internal Revenue Code. Because in the Internal Revenue Code, we discover that we pay taxes on income. Okay, whether that's earned income, passive income, or portfolio income. But did you know that clear back even in 1913, when the politicians introduced the income tax to the American people, that the politicians of that time wanted to ensure that there was some place inside the Internal Revenue Code that they knew about where these politicians could put their money and not have to pay any taxes. Would politicians do that for themselves? Of course they would. And this is exactly what this is where a laser fund was born, right? Because clear back in 1913, all the government said that they have to do here is we discovered somewhere in the Revenue Code, we have to reclassify our money so that our money is not defined. Okay, we don't want it defined as income. If my money is no longer considered income, it's no longer subject to taxes. That's as simple as it is. Now, back then, how do you do this? Well, we're going to look at this because in order to do this, where is it possible? And if it's so, where can you do this? This is allowed to be done in section 101A of the Internal Revenue Code. So if you want to look up IRC, Internal Revenue Code, section 101A, you're going to learn and discover where the politicians have been hiding their money for the last 100 years. So where have they been hiding their money? Well, it was the Rockefellers that came up with the idea. And as they came up with this idea right here, they jumped right in and they looked at this and said, okay, we're going to allow you to reclassify your money so it's no longer income, but what do you have to classify it as? Well, let's hide this in plain sight. The best place to hide something is in plain sight. So all they do is under section 101A, you have to reclassify your money as what? You have to reclassify it as death benefit inside of a life insurance policy. That's all you have to do. Reclassify your money so now your money is considered death benefit, meaning your money is the death benefit. Let me simplify a laser fund down. Let me break it down to in its core essence form. In its simplest form, a laser fund is nothing more or less than a self-insured death benefit. A self-insured death benefit. Gosh, well, what does that mean? Hang on here. I'll explain that here in just a minute here. But the beautiful thing behind this is life insurance policies are not investments. Investments are subject to what? I mean, they're subject to taxes, to losses, they're subject to all these other rules and everything else. Life insurance policies are not investments. And accordingly, you don't purchase this as an investment. You purchase this for what? We purchase this to pursue death benefit. Now, let me teach you something here, because the affluent do not pay for their death benefit. How many of you would like to learn to no longer pay for your death benefit? Now, what the affluent do is they don't pay for their death benefit. They what? They own it. Okay? You need to own the death benefit, meaning your money is the death benefit. Let me just simplify this in theory here. So if I wanted $1 million of life insurance, and if I wanted to self-insure myself for the entire amount, I want to self-insure myself for the entire $1 million, how much do I need to pay for my life insurance policy? I got to pay $1 million. And if I pay $1 million for my $1 million life insurance policy, I have, whose money is that? I still have $1 million. If I pass away, my sweetheart still only gets $1 million. But whose money is that? That wasn't the insurance company money. That was our money. So my money is the death benefit. That's how we now need to structure it and how we need to figure that out. The affluent are proactive with the Internal Revenue Code. They know that under the Internal Revenue Code, death benefit is tax-free. So therefore, they're going to go ahead and put this in place right here. And we're going to own the death benefit right here, right? We're going to own it. We're not going to pay for it. It's tax-free. Not only that, but under Section 72E, you can grow. That money can grow, and it grows tax-free. And not only that, under Section 7702, you can access your money tax-free. Now, to qualify for these three sections of the code, you must comply with two tax laws, TEFRA and DEFRA, the Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act and the Deficit Reduction Act. Now, thank heavens for each and every one of you here is that you got access to a TEFRA, DEFRA expert, okay? Every single one of our specialists that we're assigning you to are TEFRA, DEFRA experts. They know exactly how to help you comply with TEFRA and DEFRA so that you qualify for Section 101A, 72E, and 7702 of the Internal Revenue Code. So your money is will be tax-free. It can grow tax-free, and you can access it tax-free, right? That's exactly what we're able to accomplish there for you here. Because at the simplest form, insurance is simply risk management. Death benefit has two parts. Okay, you have your total death benefit. You have the insurance company's portion of that death benefit, and you have your portion of the death benefit. Now, ideally here, you want to maximize your ownership and you want to minimize the insurance companies. Why? Because this helps me minimize my costs, right? I minimize my costs and fees by making the insurance company have little to no risk inside of that death benefit. I want to own the death benefit. Okay, that's what we're looking at here. Just like I said, if you have $1 million of life insurance right here, if I could, I would pay $1 million for the entire life insurance policy and I'd have the insurance company have no risk. Now, under TEFRA and DEFRA, you can't do the 100%. So what you want to hear is you want to be able to have the maximum here and you want to minimize this here. And this is exactly what our specialists are going to be able to come in and show you under the law how you can maximize your risk or your ownership. This is maximizing your ownership, and this is minimizing the insurance company's risk or ownership in that death benefit. Is that making sense? Hopefully you're seeing something that you've never seen before. Maybe you've never seen this explained like this before, because this is the secret of the affluent. This is what they have been doing for well over 100 years here. Think of this instead. I want you to think of this instead. Think of this like a piece of real estate. Okay, let's just simplify this. I want to go, and you're going to go out and you're going to buy a 5-story office building. So if you were to go out and buy a 5-story office building, how do you make money? How do you make money when you go out and buy a 5-story office building? Well, you rent it out, of course. If you lease out the building, it becomes a beautiful cash cow. Okay, this is the exact same way a life insurance policy operates. Your life insurance policy is or can be this big, beautiful piece of real estate. But whether you make money or lose money is dependent upon whether or not you've got the life insurance policy maximum funded or fully leased out or not. 95% of life insurance policies are sitting there empty or vacant. If your building is sitting empty or vacant, are you making money or are you losing money? No, you're losing money, right? You're losing money if you leave it vacant. If you want to make money, you've got to maximum fund. You've got to lease out 100% of the building. This is how the affluent think. They think and act differently. Here's the life insurance. It's this index universal life insurance policy, right? It's the same thing. But most people are out there swinging at this, and they're just the ball's going every which direction, but never the direction they want it to go. Because the secret is not the life insurance policy. The secret is the swing. Somebody who knows and understands the Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Deficit Reduction Act, and also finally the Technical and Miscellaneous Revenue Act. Okay, these again are the three laws that you need to comply with. Now, this Tammer law comes into play where you can't, it's funny because the government, if you want your money to be tax-free, they don't let you lease out 100% of your building all at once. If you want your money to be tax-free, you actually have to lease out your building 1 year at a time. So it actually can take maybe up to 5 years to fully lease out your building. But if you'll take 5 years to fully lease out of your building, think about this. If I could take 5 years to fully lease out my office building, but from that day forward, every single rent and lease I collected from day one to the day I die, plus the appreciation on that building would all be tax-free. Would you do that? I know I would. Math doesn't lie. It's not hard to run the numbers there. I would do that day in and day out. And that's exactly what the laser fund is and what the maximum funded index universal life insurance policy does. So that is exactly achieves the goals that you're wanting to look at. It finishes the race. Think about this. I mean, if you're looking at the challenge is most people choose investments based upon, a total misconception. They choose the ones that get out of the gate. Think of a racehorse. They're going to choose the one that gets out of the gate the fastest because that's what looks the sexiest right at the beginning. But a horse that jumps out and sprints at the very beginning out of the gate, do they win the race? Very, very rarely do they ever win the race. You want the horse. You want the racer that finishes strong, right? Finish strong. And that's exactly what the laser fund is, and that's exactly what the max funded IUL does and is it will finish. It might start out of the gate slower than other racehorses, but at the end of the day, it's going to surpass them and blow by them in order to finish the race. And that's what we want to look at here. We want to help you capture 16% returns tax-free, 9% returns tax-free. These are actual laser funds of clients of ours. This one is 15 plus years old. Okay, this is 18 years old. Over the last 18 years, they have averaged 9%. Okay, this isn't just no fluffing. These are actual results now. Here's another one right here, averaging 26.75%. I mean, that's just incredible. So you want to learn how to create a protected bucket of money, right? This is your serious cash, and your serious cash goes into this protected bucket. The size of your bucket matters because we need to make sure. And how many buckets can you have? How many protected buckets of money can you have? As many as you need and want. Okay, there might be a limit to the size of your bucket. The size of your bucket is may be limited. Okay, but you can have as many buckets as you want. And this is where you work with a specialist in order to have one of these designed for you. So at the end of the day, you've got a beautiful office building that's fully leased that turns into a beautiful cash cow. So the last piece of the workbook in there again is looking at it here, identifying where am I at and where do I really want to be? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, and that is where we're looking at here. So I want to introduce, I'm going to bring up, we're ready to go ahead and have each one of you now progress on that next step. Give you the opportunity to meet with one of these specialists so that you can take that next step in creating and developing your very own laser fund. So again, if you haven't already completed the survey, go ahead. I'm going to put that up right here. I'm going to switch screens over to my dad. I'm going to let him come up right here, and we're going to switch over and let him kind of finish this up.
Great. Thank you so much, Emran. How many of you gained some insights into tax strategies that you didn't know existed before? Yeah, Emran's my older son, and he's one of the top tax strategists in America. Here in a few minutes, I'm also going to have my other son, Aaron. They're both co-authors with me on a best-selling book years ago, Millionaire by 30, How to Have Your Money Earning More Than You Do by Age 32. Then my most recent book, we all co-authored, The Laser Fund. And Aaron is actually the top IUL specialist in America. And so he's going to teach you here in a few minutes some of the numbers, examples of tax-free income, some of the indexing options, and what have you. Do I need to go out and come back in?
I will do that. Keep going.
Now, so in review, I'm going to show you some of the things that I want you to take advantage of, okay? Emran just revealed secrets to reduce taxes on your IRAs or 401ks, how to create tax-free income, and create gains and eliminate losses, okay? So as we go through and look at these strategies, hopefully you got some epiphanies, some ahas on how we accomplish some of the things that I talked about earlier, how to eliminate the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility. So again, if you haven't filled out the survey yet, be sure and scan that QR code and fill out the survey, and I'll show you why, because we want to gift you over $5,000 of gifts for doing that. So did you all sort of connect the dots, how a properly structured, max-funded, indexed insurance contract, structured quickly and funded properly is the key. Sadly, I would say over 99% of IUL policies in America would not be deemed a laser fund. Now, a laser fund is an IUL, but very few IULs in America would pass the test to be deemed a laser fund. So it's crucial that you set these up correctly. If you do, you'll eliminate the dangers of taxes, inflation, market volatility. How do we do that? You seize the opportunities that Emran talked about. You switch to tax-free. Now, we're not telling you to switch all of your money out to a laser fund. We've recommended, I suggest that 40%, maybe up to 60% of your retirement income be tax-free, not even show up on the front page of your 1040 tax return. The IRS knows our clients receive, $100,000 or $800,000 a year tax-free income because the IRS knows everything. But they know it's tax-free. It's not even worth auditing because this has been the sacred tax-free cash cow in the Internal Revenue Code, as Emran said, since 1913. This is nothing new. Hopefully you saw that when we have inflation, we hit double-digit inflation during COVID-19, because of these strategies of rebalancing, switching from a cap to a threshold strategy, we were able to have our clients achieve 25% returns, cap out at 25, even use the threshold and earn 61.33, and even using strategies that you can learn about called multipliers, where some of our clients actually achieved 158% returns. This is how you saw examples that Emran just showed you of earning returns greater than the inflation rate. And then, of course, indexing is a strategy. An indexed fund is a commodity. We're not talking about indexed mutual funds, okay? If you had, $1 million in an indexed S&P 500 index fund in 2000 at the turn of the century, you would have lost 40% twice in that decade in an indexed mutual fund. See, some people out there say, all IUL is money invested in an insurance policy that's invested in an index mutual fund. No. Indexing is a strategy that allows you to participate when the market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down because your money is not invested at risk in the market, okay? So the three greatest strengths that spells laser is an acronym that stands for liquid asset safely earning returns. Liquidity. That's the number one rule of a prudent investment. That's why we choose the laser fund. It scores high in liquidity, safety, and rates of return. You won't get pie in the sky rates of return of, 25 or 61% year in and year out. But if you do that at the proper time with a proper IUL specialist by rebalancing, having annual reviews, diversifying, That's how you're able to move your average return from maybe 7 or 8% up to 11, 12, 13, 14% that Emran showed you proof of, okay? And so predictable rates of return that historically have outpaced inflation. So folks, on your scorecard today, whatever your score is today, that just helps you understand or quantify where you are currently at. Let us help you raise your score on that scorecard and watch the peace of mind that you gain by raising your score and how you won't have to worry about money or outliving your money. The 8-step process is what these IUL specialists will take you through. This is a process I have taken my own clients through for years, and it's very, very predictable. And as you go through this process, some people do it in 6 weeks, some do it in 3 months, some take a couple of years. And in order to actually go through the 5-story building that Emran talked about, this will absolutely change your future so that your money will be tax-free forever after, grandfathered, so to speak, in the Internal Revenue Code. Engage in this process. There's no charge, no obligation. We want to transform your financial future. Now, when I say what I'm going to say here on the screen, I want you to see how much better off you could be by engaging in what we call the Asset Optimization Success Path and Implementation Plan. For years, when I would meet with clients, after talking with them and finding out where they're at and where they're wanting to go, the first report that I would want to show them is I would say, Jim and Mary, first of all, I would like to show you how much better off you could be 5, 10, 15 years down the road and clear, if you live to be 120 years old, how much better off you could be by repositioning underperforming assets or non-performing assets by increasing the liquidity, safety, and rate of return without increasing your outlay one dime. Would you be interested in seeing how much better off you could be just by repositioning assets without increasing your outlay one dime? I never had anybody say, no, I'm not interested in seeing that analysis. So that's what we want to do for you. And then number 2, I would usually ask, now, based upon your goals, what you have shared with me today, after I do that and I show you how much better off you would be than keeping your money in the market in IRAs or 401ks or whatever, if I can see that you will not reach your goals of retiring at the age or the amount of money that you would like to have, considering inflation and everything else, would you like me to also show you how much more that you ought to be setting aside as soon as you can to actually hit your goals, or maybe how you may have to put off retirement another 2 years or 3 years to make sure you hit your goals? Would you like me to do that analysis? And people would always say, yeah, I'd like to see that one too. Those are just examples of 2 types of asset optimization reports that if I were you, I would love to see, because there's no cost or obligation to receive those. And some of them are 30, 40, 50 pages, and they're there for you to keep and analyze. So let me show you, when you schedule and meet with an IUL specialist, this is what you're going to receive. First of all, you receive the Laser Fund digital book, okay? And also, we will give you the audio book, because we realize if you're like me, I like to listen and learn while I drive and everything, because I have to hear it in repetition. So we're going to gift you the audio book as well as the digital book, so you can read and learn, you can listen and learn, okay? But that's $40 of value. But some of you like to watch and learn. I like to watch educational videos, and so don't confuse this masterclass with the Entitlement Abolition masterclass that we gifted you. This one is also $1,000 value, and it's the Laser Fund Masterclass. This is a deep dive with me, Emran and Aaron, that you can watch and learn. And let me tell you, those who go through that masterclass they end up knowing more than 99.9% of CPAs, tax attorneys, and financial advisors in this country. You will understand TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA, and all of these things better than most advisors do. So that brings the gifts up to $1,000. So what else? Well, what Emron showed you is a strategic rollout. Now, if you have money trapped in IRAs or 401ks, or maybe you want to reposition some of the contributions you're making to IRAs or 401ks, maybe you're contributing 10%, but your employer is only matching on the first 6%. Well, at a minimum, I would reposition what you're putting into an IRA or 401k over and above what you're being matched. That should be a no-brainer. But maybe at some point it would behoove you to reposition contributions if you're not earning much or your money's too subject to volatility. But especially when you begin to arrive at age 59 and a half, it would behoove you to have a strategic rollout analysis report. That's a $1,500 value. That will be provided for you. And so that brings the total value up to $2,500. But one of the greatest things I want every one of you to have is the customized laser fund analysis report. That's a $2,500 value. And this is, like I said, you can get 1 or 2 or 3 based on scenarios. The first one I would ask for is, what would it look like if I didn't increase my outlay one dime? I just repositioned what I'm already doing with my money to increase the liquidity, safety, and rate of return, and see if that hits your goals. It'll probably do far better than where you currently have your money, because they'll only suggest you reposition money that's underperforming or non-performing that you could increase the liquidity, safety, and the rate of return. Now, and then they'll show you what else you might do in order to hit your goals. So that brings the total value up to over $5,000. Now, what is in this customized laser fund report? It's the detailed analysis, and they'll go through all of the numbers with you. And it shows that with a simulation, instead of just an average return, you'll be able to go back and say, what would have happened during the Great Recession in 2001, in 2008, during COVID-19, where zero is your hero and you don't lose. And you'll see, wow, this is amazing, because you see how it actually works in real life with historical actual rates of return. And also you'll have a report that compares it to all other kinds of financial alternatives, mutual funds, municipal bonds, annuities, or what have you. So take advantage of this report. You'll be able to study it and then come back and talk to your IUL specialist, ask questions, and then they'll customize it with flexibility for you. So when you schedule and meet with an IUL specialist that we assign to you, you'll receive the digital, the audio, the masterclass, the strategic rollout report, and your customized laser fund report, that $5,000 of value. So make sure you not only schedule, but you meet with your IUL specialist, and then they'll give you all of these gifts absolutely free. We want to empower you. Now, how many of you can remember everything we've taught today? Okay? Well, if you're like me, no. So as a token of appreciation for filling out the survey, I'm going to send you a replay of this webinar, okay? So you can watch this webinar again if you're going, golly, I want to hear about indexing again, or this or that or the other. So we want you to do that. That's why we implore you to take advantage of the survey. This is confidential. We don't share this information with anybody. And the 6 numbers there help us to make sure we can show you how much better off you could be and eliminate, the taxes, $200,000, $500,000. We have saved so many RBD attendees, collectively well over $1 billion in tax annually, okay? Now, you're about to have, Emron's going to introduce you to your special IUL specialist. They're pictured here on the screen. They are all, we're talking about the top 12, the creme de la creme out of over 5,000. These have proven their proficiency. We oversee them. You can be assured you're in good hands talking to these, okay? And so after Emron helps facilitate right now a brief sort of meet and greet with your assigned IUL specialist in separate breakout rooms. He's going to show you how you do that. My other son, Aaron, after you meet and greet, and schedule a time with your IUL specialist in your breakout room. Aaron's going to then come back on, and he'll take 20 minutes or so, and he's the number one IUL specialist in America. He's going to take a few minutes, like I said, and show you some actual numbers, examples of tax-free income, and some of the indexing options to help you understand that a little bit better. Folks, we appreciate so much your time and attention today, and we hope it's been well worth your while. Emran, why don't you facilitate coming into those break rooms?
Yeah, stay up here with me for just a minute here. So again, I just want to also thank Doug, thank my dad. It's been great to have. It's always great to have you up here and have an opportunity to learn from him. And I have a lot of gratitude towards that. So, like he said, we're going to go ahead and send you over to your breakout rooms. So we're going to open up the breakout rooms. Now, these are the specialists that you have been assigned to. In a second here, you're going to get a box that's going to pop up like this. Just simply click the join button. Okay, so click that join button right there that says join, and you'll be able to be pulled right into the room that you're supposed to be in order to meet with your assigned specialist. Okay, each one of these specialists have been personally trained by Doug, myself, by Aaron. You know, they are the best of the best right there. So we're going to open those up right there. If you haven't filled out your survey, I'll bring this back around and serve that and do that here in just a second. If for some reason we pop that up right there, you know, those are coming in. Just go ahead and join. Go ahead and join those. If for some reason you accidentally close out or you decline getting into one of those rooms right here, you can still do it manually, okay? As long as you're assigned. Now, if you haven't filled out a survey, let me just caveat that again. If you have not filled out a survey, you have not been assigned to a breakout room. Okay, so you need to fill out the survey in order to get into the breakout room. So again, if you need to fill out that survey, there's the QR code one last time right there. Your last opportunity to go ahead and get that, or you can go straight to the website, retirebydesignevent.com/get started. Okay, we've thrown that in the chat as well. It's right there in the chat. Go ahead and click on that in the chat, and you can fill out the survey so that you can get assigned to one of these rooms. And as you get those rooms right there, they're going to schedule your private consultations. Like Doug mentioned there, at no cost to you. You're going to get all those free gifts, those $5,000 of gifts from Doug for jumping in and pursuing your financial future. If for some reason you had that box pop up and you click the wrong button or whatever, you're not in a breakout room, you're like, wait, I'm supposed to be in a breakout room? Again, down at the bottom of your Zoom screen right here, you're going to see these 4 little boxes. It says breakout rooms. Click on that. If you don't see that, you're going to have to click on the 3 little buttons over here to the right that says more. Click on that and it will bring up a menu that says breakout rooms. Okay, so you can click on either one of those 2 right there. When you click on those, it'll activate the breakout room again for you and it'll allow you to join that breakout room. Now, if you're on a mobile phone, you'll see these icons on the top left hand of your screen. So instead of if you're on a computer, it's going to be on the bottom of your screen right there. If you're on a phone, most of the time on a phone, it's in the upper left-hand corner. The upper left-hand corner of your phone screen right there is where you should be able to see that breakout room or the 3 dots, the more, and you should be able to activate your breakout room. Again, if you haven't filled out the survey though, then we won't have you in a breakout room. Now, if you did fill out a survey and you're not in a breakout room, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat. One of the first things I want to make sure you do there is make sure that your Zoom name, so my name's Emran Andrew, but if on Zoom my name is showing up, if on Zoom if I'm right clicking on Zoom right there and it says, and I can see my name is showing up as Doug's favorite son. Okay, so Doug's favorite son, I mean, that's great. That's wonderful to know, but that doesn't help us to know who you are. Okay, so we needed to have you change your name to reflect the name that you entered in your survey. Okay, so I'd have to change my name from Doug's favorite son to Emran Andrew. Okay, and so I just put in Emran Andrew, and then we can find you. Put in your first name and your last name, because there's lots of Williams out there. There's lots of so just to make sure we can find you, put in your first and your last name, change your name. We'll find you and we'll push you there. Now, again, if you're not Steve, if you can't find the survey, okay, Steve, we can help you get this survey there. You can either click that right there, scan that QR code, or go to the website, retirebydesignevent.com/get started. Can actually somebody just go ahead in the chat right there and give Steve the link. So if we can post the link again, you can actually just click on the link in the chat. In fact, it's right there above your name where you entered in your name right there. If you'll just click on the link, retirebydesignevent.com/get started, you'll be able to access the survey that way. So hopefully, Steve, hopefully that helps and you're able to access the survey. Annie saying not being seen in the breakout room, and you filled out the survey. Annie, it looks like we got Annie taken care of. We found Annie and got Annie taken care of.
Jim couldn't see the QR code?
The QR code should be up on the screen right now. Should still be up on the screen right now. If you're looking at Zoom, watching Zoom, it's right there.
Or go to the chat and click on the link.
Yep, right. So Anthony, again, same thing right there. If you can get the survey right there, it's just click on the link. I love. I've got Guillermo. Guillermo's one of the producers that we've been training here, and he's been fantastic. Love it. I appreciate him being on and helping us out here a little bit. Let's see here. Savitha. I hope I'm saying that right. I typed my name. It's not going anywhere. Have we been able to find which breakout room she's in? Did we find to see if Savitha is been assigned? Okay, Mark, you're having a hard time accessing the breakout room. Okay, if you're having a hard time accessing the breakout room, I'm going to show you up on screen again how to access the breakout room. At the bottom of your Zoom screen should be this this button down here that says breakout rooms. Or if one of our admins goes ahead and finds you, they'll assign you to a breakout room and a little invitation. Okay, a little invitation pops up, a box that kind of looks like this. It pops up and you can click join. If that's not happening for you, then at the bottom of Zoom, you'll either have an icon, these four squares that will say breakout rooms, or if you don't see that, it's because it's hidden over here under the more. Okay, all the way to the right of your screen, you'll have these three dots that says more. Click more, and it will open up more options for you. One of the options that should open up is breakout rooms. Okay, breakout rooms should go ahead and pull up right there, and you should be able to go ahead and access those breakout rooms. Okay, so hopefully that helps, Mark. Hopefully you can find that. Mark, it looks. Okay, so some of you that are just filling out your surveys, okay, you just barely got those filled out. Thank you. Now give us just a minute or two to get you assigned. Okay, it's not like an AI process. We're actually we put our own individual thought into this, knowing who to assign you to and pull you into that specific room. So we do have to do that manually. So Mark, I do see that you fill out the survey. We are currently working on getting you assigned and getting you moved over to a room. So hopefully you just saw that. Mark, you should have just gotten the invitation to join Scott Reynolds' room. So hopefully you see that. That box should have popped up right there. Go ahead and click on join that room. Look, Debbie, wonderful. You've booked your meeting and you're finished. We finished for the day. Debbie, if you want to hang on for just a minute here, in just another minute or two, if you would like to see a little bit more details, if you'd like to see actually some numbers, some actual examples and numbers of a laser fund, you want to see how it operates in the early years, how it creates income on the back end, we're going to have a short 20-minute bonus session. So any of you that would like to stay on for a few more minutes, we're going to have a short 20-minute bonus session taught by Doug's second favorite son, my brother Aaron. Okay, my brother Aaron is going to come up here and he's going to go a little bit in the details. The devil is always in the details, right? The devil's always in the details. So we're going to have him jump up here in just a minute or two. He's actually just scheduling his meetings with the people that are assigned to him. As soon as he's done here in the next minute or two, he's actually going to jump over here and he is going to give us that. So if you'd like to stay for that bonus session, hang on and we will be transitioning over to that bonus session here in just a second. So Debbie, thank you for that question here.
Yeah, you're going to be blown away with what he shares with you. So if you've got a few extra minutes, it'll be well worth your while.
Can you guys try to re-invite Savitha to her breakout room? She accidentally clicked out. Now, Savitha, again, up on my screen right here, you can kind of see that we've got it. You can kind of click on the breakout rooms, and we can try to get you assigned. We're actually trying to do that right now. So in just a minute, we should try to assign you to a breakout room. You should have that invitation pop back up here in just a minute, and we will get you assigned to somebody here in just a second. Annette, wonderful. Thanks. I'm glad you got your appointment scheduled with Kyle. He's amazing. He is so much fun. Now, one thing about Kyle, ask him about his acting career. Okay, ask Kyle about his acting career. You know, he's awesome. He is also on the side. He loves to act on the side. He's in lots of different actually plays here locally. It is fun. It is fun right there. He's a fun, and he's been doing this for a long time. A true professional when it comes to designing your IUL for you too. Yeah, he is a hoot. You're right, Annette. He absolutely is a hoot. So that's awesome. Good. Let's see here. Anybody else having any issues? Okay, Sonia. We're gonna take care of you there. It looks like you actually purchased access to the master class, but was never but you didn't get any email with instructions. Okay, we're gonna take care of you, Sonia. Sonia. We will make a note of that. If we can make Sonia, can you give me your email address? If you can give me the email address you use to actually get access. If you're a professional, looks like you might even be a professional there. So if you access the, if you purchase the access to the master class that way, and you actually purchase that, give me your email address. It's when you order the books right there. Fantastic. I've got your email address. We're gonna pull that in. Make sure that we'll make note of that and make sure that you get access to those to what you grabbed right there. Sometimes it goes to your junk mail. Sometimes for some reason the email gets it gets jumbled, whatever, right there. But be assured we will take care of you. You'll get access to that.
Looks like Carolyn still is having an issue getting into a breakout room. Can you help Carolyn there?
Good, Carolyn. I mean, my first question is, did you fill out a survey? If you fill out a survey, then just we're gonna get you assigned to a breakout room right now. Good. I see that. Yes, you did. Okay, so Carolyn St. Philip. If you can do a search for Carolyn St. Philip and get her assigned to her breakout room, that would be fantastic. Okay, it looks like we're still waiting for the survey to pop up in ours right there. Like Bud says, sometimes the internet's running a little bit slow, so we're trying to get it to refresh. It is going to space and back, so we're trying to get this signal to get back to us as quickly as possible. But otherwise, we will get you assigned here in the next minute or two. Mark Alderette, can we actually go ahead again and push Mark back into Kyle's room? So if we can pull up Mark Alderette, and he's working with Kyle. He needs to continue. I think he accidentally exited out of his breakout room. Mark needs to get back into Kyle's breakout room. So if we can just pull Kyle Alderette up. Or Mark, he says, sorry, I was working with Kyle. I think he was working with Kyle already. So he was, yeah, so we apologize. So that's why he left Scott's room, and he's trying to get into Kyle's room. So Mark, we got you now moved. We got you moved over to Kyle's room. Thanks for clarifying that for us. Good. We're just about ready to invite Aaron onto stage here, and he's going to take us through, again, a little bonus session, take us through a little bit of the devils in the details. So all of you that are jumping back in, thanks for getting scheduled with your IUL specialist, and we are going to get you, we're going to get, one, looking forward to helping you, and number two here, we're going to invite Aaron up on stage here in just another minute or two for anybody that would like to get a little bit more information seeing how this actually works. Okay, so we're really excited about that. Anybody still having issues? If you're still trying to get connected right there, feel free to please put your challenge, tell us what problems you're having in the chat right there, and we will get you taken care of. We've got Josephine. Josephine Abaya. Josephine Abaya can't find the breakout room. Okay, Josephine, I see that you're actually one of the professionals that joined our group today. You and any other professional that joined our meeting today, we want to say thank you. This meeting is for the general public, but we love and appreciate, and we invite any professionals to come in and be able to learn how to do what we do. So actually, you've actually already got a meeting. We're getting you a meeting scheduled with one of our other specialists that can help you come in and get access to all of the tools and resources and training so that you can design the IULs, you can design laser funds, just like all of our specialists are doing for all of these wonderful people here. We're going to give you that access and help you learn how to do that the exact same way as well. So if you're a professional, when you filled out the survey, you would have had the opportunity to go ahead and actually schedule an appointment. You don't have a breakout room. None of our professionals have a breakout room. You'll have the opportunity to actually just schedule a meeting to meet with one of our other specialists to talk about our program called IUL Insiders. And that's our program where we teach, we train, and we mentor. You can get access to world-class training, world-class mentoring, and world-class software and resources to help you do this right for each and every one of your clients. So good. We appreciate that. Anybody else? Anybody else have a problem or issue? I don't know if Aaron knows when 12 minutes are, but he's definitely gone beyond his 12 minutes. I don't know if we can have somebody maybe step over there and kind of see if he's... and this is why he is the second favorite and not the first favorite. Right? We can rely on the first favorite. All right, here he is right here. Doug's second favorite son, Aaron Andrew.
What have I missed? What have I missed in this event? Well, I was trying to time myself in there. I got my timer still going here. But we are good. Let me just get my computer set up here. Oops. Move that down. Don't share my screen yet, but we'll get this going.
What did you all learn? Second is the best of all the game, right? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I need to leave the meeting on my computer, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. I'm out. Now, let me get my screen up here. You guys, I had it going both on my computer and with you guys. I had it going double here. Okay, here we go. Ready to go. My name again is Aaron Andrew, one of the authors in the book of the Laser Fund. I just scheduled a bunch of you to meet with me. All of our advisors are amazing. They're awesome, and they've all been doing this a long time. Very long time, and they all know how to do it just like my dad, my brother, and I are going to be talking about. So one thing that's kind of cool, you guys, there's no cost or obligation to meet with us. So when you just schedule that appointment with your advisor, with your IUL specialist, we're going to meet with you. No cost, no pressure. Anytime you can say thanks but no thanks. But we're going to show you different things here of how this can work with you, your numbers, the fees, expenses. I just told everybody in my room I would like you to read chapters about 6 through 9. If you want to go a little more, go 5 through 10, or I want you to read the whole book, but if you need by the second appointment. So everyone's homework assignment is to read chapters 6 through 9 of the white side of the book, and they're going to email that. You're getting that all today by email from your IUL specialist, okay? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get into some details and numbers here to kind of get into things that we're going to talk about with the IUL Laser Fund. So why don't you go ahead and put my screen up, Jake? And what we're going to see now is I'm going to just jump right in and share with you guys a couple of cool things. So some of the 85 companies that offer IUL. Out of those 85 companies that offer IUL, or what's called Index Universal Life, there's only a handful that we'll work with. And you can't go direct to the company. Some people think, I can just go direct to the life insurance company. No, they're going to send you to someone like us anyways. It doesn't cost anymore. We get it done right, though, with the right amount of death benefit, the lowest fees and expenses possible. So it doesn't cost anything going through us. You have to go through a licensed advisor anyways. So one of the main companies that we use, you can see here on the screen, is Nationwide. So, everybody's seeing what Nationwide is on your side, right? So you guys know the company. Nationwide is an awesome company. It's one of our favorite companies to use. I'm just going to go through some PDF files here. So they are an amazing company. Been around for almost 100 years. They've been around since 1926. Everyone knows this company. They're number 73 on the Fortune 100. They have excellent ratings. We're very big on using companies that are mutual. I don't like to use companies that aren't mutual because companies that are publicly traded, their loyalty is to the stockholders, and those companies might have a track record of increasing fees and expenses and so forth. So we're real big on using companies like Lincoln Financial Group, John Hancock, Voya, AXA. There's lots of companies out there that will increase fees maybe or lower returns. We use companies that have a good track record. We've been doing this a long time. I'm 42. I've been doing this over 20 years now. We've researched all the companies. We look at all their fees, expenses, their returns, their track record, and we pick the right companies out there. So we're independent. We can use anyone we want. So Nationwide is one of our favorites. Excellent ratings. Excellent ratings. Another company we like to use is Pacific Life. Okay, who here has heard of Pacific Life? Oh, everyone's heard of Nationwide, but I'm kind of surprised when I hear clients that haven't heard of Pacific Life. It's maybe because you don't watch TV anymore, okay? Because they do advertise college football, golf, tennis. They sponsor things. So Pacific Life is well known. This company has received the Dalbar Award for customer service 6 years in a row. Most Ethical Company Award 6 years in a row. Also, they are also a mutual company, okay? They don't have any publicly traded stock. So again, their loyalty is to you and the strength of the company, not to some stockholder, okay? So they have excellent track record, you guys. These guys have been around since 1868. So over 150 years now in the business. By the way, they're number one in volume and have been for about 12 or 13 years. Number one in the sale of IUL out of those 85 companies. So we love this company as well. We use both. Their strength is amazing. They have excellent financials. Same thing as Nationwide. They have very good financials. They're slightly higher rated than Nationwide, but they're both awesome. So we look at ratings. Like there's a score between 0 and 100 that we get of these companies. These guys are ranked at 95. That means that 95%, so this says right there 0 to 100, 95% of insurance companies are lower rated than Pacific Life, okay? And these guys are about the highest rated one out there, number one or number two as far as strength goes. Awesome company, $200 billion in assets. We're almost going to have their 2023 reports, all these companies soon. So yeah, just excellent strength, excellent track record, very good companies. These are the two main companies we use, but there's lots of companies. We can show you lots of companies. We can compare all the fees and expenses. Let's talk about indexing now. So talking about indexing, this is one of Nationwide's products. This is one of our favorite products to use. This is what Emran and Doug have been talking about. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of some of the indexing strategies that one of their products have. So like Emran and Doug talked about, zero's the hero. So within a product, we can diversify and allocate so much of our funds to each of these different accounts. So for example, there's this multi-index. This is the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. It's a monthly average. Don't have time to get into it, but it's a cool one-year strategy. It has a 12% cap. So that's the cap right now. And the caps, you guys, and these participation rates can change. I want them to be able to change because as interest rates have started to go up over the last 2 years, guess what's happened to these caps and these interest rates and these par rates? They've gone up. So I don't want to be locked in when you buy it. The company needs to be able to move it because they're not going to be locked into the same rates all the time with your money. So they need to be able to move it and stay healthy. So we've seen these rates start to go up. So the S&P 10% cap guarantee is zero. So like Emran and Doug talked about, zero is the hero. Market goes up 5, you get 5. Market goes up 8, you get 8. If it goes up 10 or above, you get 10 in the S&P. You can see the historical on these accounts is 7%. This is the last 30 years. 7.2 or 6.8. Pretty awesome, tax-free with no risk, okay? Here on the left of that, that's just what we can illustrate by law, but this is what the real historical is on that far right. Let's look at the uncapped S&P. This is the one Emran was talking about, where you get all the growth of the S&P minus a spread or a threshold. That is 8.75. So right now, last few months, the market has been up a lot on some of these time frames. It depends on the time frame. But if the market's up a lot, you minus 8.75 off the top, we can get like 20, 30% still. Okay, but if the market only goes up 10%, you're only going to get 1.25. So that one's not good if the market just goes up a little bit. So, but historically, you can see it's almost the same as the other. Like Emran said, we will strategically use that one when the market goes down. But because the market's been kind of volatile over the last few years, this spread's a little higher right now. So we've seen it as low as 5%, which is really good. Okay, next ones. The next two here, these are the exact same as the first two. You just add a 1% fee. So if you add a 1% fee, that's not going to us. That's not going to Nationwide. that fee is buying you a higher cap. It's going to options budget, like Doug was talking about earlier. So that 1% fee buys us a 19% cap instead of 12, or the 1% fee on the S&P buys us a 12 and a 12.75 instead of a 10%. Can it be worth the fee? Yeah, look over here historically. So historically, 7 versus 8.7, 6.8 versus 8.25. You know, you got to minus the fee out of that, but still, those are very good historical returns. Now, these other accounts called volatility control accounts, these are really cool. A lot of these accounts are newer. Some have been around since around 2016. These ones are newer, been around for about 2 years or so. These accounts down here, I'm going to highlight the high par ones. This JP Morgan Mercury or this BNP Paribas Global HVAC. That's one of my favorites. I'm going to focus on the BNP one. That is a low volatility index or a volatility control index. So S&P, you guys, is very volatile. So the option cost or the hedging cost is pretty expensive. That's why they have a 10% cap, you know, with the floor of 0. But if we use this BNP account, it's about right now about half bonds or fixed income, and the other half is equities. And the index will move daily how much is allocated to bonds and how much is allocated to equities. With that, they can control the volatility of the index. And because of that, they can offer no cap guaranteed, 250% participation rate right now. So recently, this index has gone up as much as like 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 9% return. Then you multiply that by 250%. So our clients are getting anywhere from 13 to 25% right now on that index. Historically, look at it, 15%. So back testing this using real data, because it's not human decision, it's a formula, the index, so we can back test this. So basically, what we're seeing here is on the high par select, you can also, that same account, you can offer a 1% fee, okay? And I'll scroll up a little bit here so they can see that. So you can see a 1% fee to get 18% return instead of 15. Now you guys, 18% tax-free without any risk in the market. That's pretty sweet. Now these accounts don't always follow the market, the S&P that is. So you got to be careful. We mix it up. We're going to mix it up between these. We're going to move it each year. So each year we're going to meet and say, hey, what are we going to do with this account? What are we going to do with this one? Should we do 50% here, 50% here, or 20% in 4 or 5 different accounts? So what is our allocation going to be? So this is kind of cool. This is the different accounts within this one. Now, Nationwide has another one we can talk about. This one is called the New Heights. This one's pretty cool. It has the S&P, same. This is almost the exact same company, you guys, just different product. Here's a 9.75 cap, guarantee of 0. Here's a 2-year uncapped S&P. So remember that last one, it was a 1-year. This one, they say, hey, if you're willing to wait 2 years, we can do, if the option costs are a little cheaper, so we can go with a 9% spread over 2 years. That's like 4.5% a year. So historically, that one's about 8% versus the 6.6. That one's really cool after a market crash. You wait 2 years, you get all the market growth minus 9%. Really cool index. This one down here, this high par 5 Goldman Sachs account, this is a new index, been around for 2 years, but that index right there has done really well lately. That one's really cool, 260% uncapped. That's just like the last strategies, the volatility control, the BNP I just showed you. And they have a 2-year version. The 2-year right now, they're giving us, they can afford to give us 370% participation rate with no cap. Look at the historical on that, 25%, 19%. Now this index, the last 10 years is more like 10, 12%. But if you go back, 20 years, those accounts are about 19 and 25% historical with the back testing of those. Super cool. Now, is it going to do that in the future? We don't know. But these accounts are so powerful with the no caps and these high participation rates, okay? There's a Mosaic, a Zebra, there's some other accounts here. So that just gives you a little bit of a taste. Let's go to Pacific Life as another example. Pacific Life, a little different in their offerings. They have a fixed account. You can currently get 4.5. So if you think, I've been doing this over 20 years. Every year, there's always a bunch of clients that are like, the market's going to crash. The market's going to crash. I just know it is. It's like, all right, if you think it's going to crash, by the way, most of the time they're wrong. It's hard to time the market, of course. Yes, we can, when the market goes down, a lot of times it's going to rebound. We know that. But sometimes we don't know if the market's going to go down or up sometimes. But if you think it's going to go down, you can choose the fixed account at 4.5. So they're paying a pretty high rate right now on the fixed account, 4.5%. You just get that rate. That's your guaranteed fixed rate this year, 4.5. Next year, that rate might be a little higher if interest rates keep staying high. It could go down, but it most likely will go up a little bit next year. It'll probably go up to like 5% another year, if interest rates stay where they're at. So that's the fixed account. S&P, 10% cap, guarantee of 0. So 0 is the hero, up to 10. That's the same thing as that nationwide one. Here's a high cap. You pay a little fee of 0.8 to get a 12% cap. Very similar to nationwide. 2-year. Now, this is different than the nationwide 2-year. This one has a 24% cap over 2 years. So, okay, instead of having 9% off the top, you can say, I want a 24% cap over 2 years. And so instead of a 10% cap over 1 year, you wait 2 years and you get all the growth of the S&P up to 24%. That is one of my favorite strategies with Pacific Life. This is a, really cool one. And the 5-year, so we have some people that are like, hey, I want to outperform the market. Okay, sometimes we're not going to outperform the market with a 10% cap, but you're not going to have any risk. You're going to have tax-free. We're not going to lose when the market goes down. But if somebody wants to be aggressive, you're going to go for the 5-year. All right, so if you want the market, all the market growth, the S&P 500 with no cap, go for the 5-year. Okay, but you got to wait 5 years. There's no cap over 5 years, and you get 110% of what the market does. Okay, so these participation rates, again, I need to back up a little bit because I think on the Pacific Life one, or the nationwide one, I maybe didn't do enough justice on it, is going back to this one right here, this Goldman Sachs that has a 260% participation rate. What does that mean? That means if the index goes up 10%, you participate 260% in that return. So what's 260% of 10, you guys? 26. So you would get a 26% return. All right. This 2-year one, if that index went up 10% over 2 years, you would get 37% return over that 2-year period. Okay. Now, again, these volatility control accounts, they have these high par rates. They don't go up as much as the S&P because they have bonds and fixed income and equities in them, but they do very, very well over time. And there's some years where you just knock it out of the park in those ones. Okay. So going back to Pacific Life, the 5-year, what is the S&P today? We don't wait 1 year or 2 years. We wait 5 years. You get all the market growth over 5 years with no cap. Pretty cool. So if you don't want a cap, you're looking more long-term, you're going to go for the 5-year account. Now, we've got to go over one more. They also have a volatility control account. Their volatility control account has a 200% participation rate, no cap. So you get 200% of what it does. So if the index, again, goes up 10, you get 20. Recently, this index has gone up 5 recently. So you would get 10% return in this one. Okay. So this one as well does very, very well. Good index account. But let me just tell you one thing that Pacific Life has. Read chapter 6. Chapter 6 in the book, I talk about all this stuff. So before your second appointment, we want you to read chapter 6 that will explain all these returns, give you some examples and so forth. But I also talk about multipliers. So Pacific Life has what's called multipliers, where we can have an extra fee to multiply your returns. Sounds a little crazy. But if you even want to outperform the market even more, so those of you who had a comment a while ago, like, oh, the market can outperform these. No, I can outperform the market with this feature by far. So we can pay, I'm just going to write it on the screen here. We can pay an extra 7.5% fee, up to that much. You can go with like a 2.5% fee, a 5% fee, or you can go all the way to a 7.5% fee. You can go up to a 7.5% fee to multiply your returns by 2.36 times. Okay, so this is crazy. These returns are awesome. So basically, if you want, this is optional, and you can choose each year. You can pay an extra 7.5% and say, why would anyone do that? Because the returns are huge with it. We don't get that fee. Pacific Life doesn't take the fee. The fee goes to options, and that you're just basically buying more upside. So with that, you're going to get way more return. It's really, really cool. So we basically take, let's just look at the 5-year historical. This goes back the last 40 years. Last 40 years, the 5-year account would be 9.77% historical. On the bad market years, we get 0 is the hero. On the good years, this is the average return over the 5-year period. So these returns are just awesome on the 5-year. But if you add that multiplier in just for fun, let's look at it. On the 5-year account, our return would be 13% net of the fee. The market did 8.5 over those 40 years. We did 13 tax-free net of that 7.5 fee. So you can go that aggressive if you want. You're going to have bad years where we're going to go negative because of that multiplier fee. But on the good years, we're going to be getting like 18 average a year, 15, 24, 16, 12. This is what the returns have been recently, you guys, in this 5-year account with the multiplier. So you can go aggressive. Meet with your IUL specialist and they will go over these returns with you. Let's take a look at an example now. So I'm going to show a 60-year-old. Now, I know not everybody's 60 in the room. This is just an example, but we will run your numbers. So each of your appointments individually, your IUL specialist will run these numbers with you. Just like Emran talked about a minute ago, it's like a 5-story building. It's not a get-rich-quick product. This is a long-term product. Yes, you can take income starting in the first or second year if you need to. Typically, we like you to wait for 3 to 4 or 5 years so you start to take income from it. You can take money out of it if you need to, but it doesn't matter like if you're going to start income in 4 or 5 years. It depends. If you're going to be taking income for your lifetime, this product is awesome, okay? So this 60-year-old right here, here's an example of the 5-story building. You're insured for $950,000, a 60-year-old putting in $500,000. So this example, we're paying it in over 6 years. We can do it in 5, but this example, we're paying in $500,000 over a 6-year period. So $500K is going in. Right away, when you put in your first $93,000, you're at $86,000 at the end of the first year. We're kind of down. Just like Emran said, it's like buying the 5-story building. You've rented out 1 floor. Your other 4 floors are vacant. You're not covering your overhead yet. That's the downside of IUL. It's okay if you pass away, your family gets $950,000, but we're after the long-term aspect. You can see by year 6, we put in $500,000. We got $576. And by the way, I'm showing a 7.5% return. So yes, the returns can be lower. They can be higher. You can see, you just saw a minute ago, they can be way higher, but I want to be conservative. We're going to show 6, 7, 8% in these examples. So at 7.5, we would have 576 in there, 553 in the surrender value. Your surrender value is what is liquid. This is what you can borrow against or use. So write this down. Chapter 8, I talk about the loans and the withdrawals and how you get your money out tax-free. There's the sad way, the smart way, and the dumb way. All right. So out of those ways, the sad way, the smart way, and the dumb way, there's those different ways to get your money out. You will read about it in the book to get more details. But just so you know, we're going to take loans. And everyone panics when I say the word loan because they think, oh, loans are bad. I got to pay interest. Loans are tax-free. This is how we get our money out tax-free. But you got to understand that they are really cool. There's zero cost loans. And there's like loans that you have a positive spread. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So in this example, you can see that after 10 years, you can see that these accounts are the same, the accumulation value and the surrender value. Again, you can access or borrow 90% of your surrender value if you ever need to. Anytime you die, your family gets the death benefit. Yes, I dropped the death benefit there a little bit. You don't have to do that. Then it starts to grow. So if this 60-year-old never touched this money, it's going to grow tax-free. They could always access money tax-free. But you can see by age 90, they've got $3 million in there. It's going to leave behind $3.4 million tax-free to their family. If they die at age 85, they got $2.3 million in there. It's going to blossom to $2.4 million. If they live to age 100, $6.8 million. They leave behind $7 million tax-free to their family. Tax-free, no taxes, no income taxes were ever paid on that money. Really cool. Let's go to the next example. Same 60-year-old, and you guys, you don't have to have $500,000. This is just an example. You're going to meet with your specialist with your numbers, and they will run your numbers, whether you're putting money in for 20 years, 5 years, or whatever you're doing. Same exact example. 6 years in, you put in your last $32,000, and we start to take out $50,000 a year in the form of what we call tax-free loans. All right. So that $50,000 is coming to you tax-free. Under this projection, earning 7.5%, we are borrowing this money out at 5%. I'll talk about that here in a second. But the loans, you're going to have a loan balance, yes, but the loans are paid off when you die. You never have to pay out the loans till you pass away. And they're only going to let you borrow what you have in there, you guys. You're not going to, run out of money. You could if you take out too much, but we don't want to do that, of course. So in this example, let's look at age 85 now. Age 85, they have 2.3 million. Remember that? I showed you guys that a second ago. They still have 2.3 million because their money's still in there growing. They did not withdraw their money. They borrowed against it. And that's why it's tax-free under Section 7702. This is chapter 7 of the book. Okay? So because it's a loan, it's tax-free. So this person is taking out 50 grand a year tax-free all those years. They have 2.3 million still in the policy, but they have a loan balance of about 1.9. Just going to round the numbers. So they have a net of 400 grand in there. So a net of 400. Net of loans. If they pass away, their family gets 445. So their family gets 445,000 tax-free, all said and done. So pretty cool. They put in 500 grand of after-tax dollars. So all the money that goes in is after tax. Okay, so that's why a lot of CPAs call this the wealthy's Roth IRA, because you guys can put in as much as you want. I got clients putting in millions. We got clients putting in 500 to 1,000 a month into these. Everyone can do this. And but the thing is, it's tax-free. All right? You put in money, after-tax dollars like a Roth, it grows tax-free, but we don't have market risk. We have zeros to hero. We have a death benefit. We have indexing, and we have loans. Loans are a positive. Let's go over and talk about the loans for a minute here. I'm going to take a side trip, and let's just talk about Pacific Life's loan options. This is their brochure. So in this example, they have 3 loan options. You can take out withdrawals. So if you guys don't want to have loan interest, you can take out a withdrawal, and you'll pay taxes on your gains, okay? You can technically withdraw what you put in, but no one does withdrawals, you guys. Withdrawals, you're going to pay taxes on your gains. That's the dumb way. We talk about this in chapter 8 of the book. The sad way is dying. You get an awesome death benefit for your family. The dumb way is to take withdrawals. The smart way is to take loans. So in this company, we can take what's called a standard loan, where we're going to borrow at 2.25%, and we borrowed after 6 years. You're going to get credited 2.25%. So this is important. You are not withdrawing your money. Your money is still in there. So when that client is borrowing $50,000, they're going to charge them 2.25% interest. They don't have to pay the loan interest. It's just going to add on to the loan balance. So let's just round it up to $1 million. Let's just say you had a $100,000 loan. 2.25% would be, over $2,000 would be your interest. You don't pay it, your loan balance goes up to $102,250, right? But their collateral, the money in the policy, let's just call that 500 grand. They got 500,000 in their policy, okay? The money that's the collateral for the loan no longer earns the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. The money that's in there that's the collateral for the loan that you're borrowing against is going to earn 2.25%. So they call this a zero wash loan in the industry. You borrow at 2.25%, the collateral earns 2.25%. It's called a wash, zero wash loan or zero cost loan. That is the most conservative. It's awesome. It's very cool. That is the standard loan. A lot of our clients, though, will use this index loan over here. This index loan is where you borrow at 4.9% right now. Why would I borrow at 4.9 when I could borrow at 2.25%? Because the 4.9, your money gets to stay inside those 1-year accounts. So you borrow at 4.9, your money gets to stay in those accounts, earning 10%, 5, some years 0, some years 15 or 20 if you have those multipliers, those big returns. So you're going to have, much better return there in this example. So that's why these things look so great when you start to take loans. Is we take loans at the 50 grand a year, and we can borrow at 5, and our money can keep earning the index returns. You're going to learn more about this one-on-one with your advisor. Just as a last example here, this is an after-tax, like a brokerage account, earning the same return with a 1% management fee. Our fees over the life of the policy were about 1. The fees were more in the beginning, less later on. But you can see they run out of money. They run out of money when we keep generating $50,000 a year tax-free. So if this person lives to age 90, the taxable account ran out of money. We kept generating income to age 90, and we still left behind 650 grand. So cool. So your advisor is going to be able to show this to you one-on-one. I hope this gave you a taste of what you're going to see in your second appointment to show you the details and the numbers. Make sure you read chapters 6 through 9 before your second appointment. You'll have a foundation now from seeing this, but we're so excited to have you join us. Make sure you have your appointment scheduled. If you didn't fill out the survey yet, make sure you do that. We'd love to see what we can do for you one-on-one to look at your situations, your age, your situation, and your assets that you have to put into this. So thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I kind of did. But yeah, anyone else, as we're ending here, if anyone that didn't fill out the survey, make sure you reach out. You fill out that, go to that survey, fill it out. We can still meet with you if you haven't filled out the survey. So make sure if you didn't get to that, message us if you're having problems with it like you've been doing in the chat. But we'd love to help you out with the survey if you didn't get a chance. And we'd love to get you an IUL Laser Fund book so you can learn more. And there it is. Again, the scanner, you can take your cell phone and scan that code or go to that website to do it. Thank you so much for joining. Any other questions, write them down and have them for your first appointment ready to go with your IUL specialist.